everyone, I'm Nagraj. Sometimes comics writer. But daily comics class स्वागत करते हैं. The main aim but the purpose of this purpose of this group is basically at least एक कमरे में बैठ के बातें करेंगे instead of randomly यार काम नहीं होता यार वैसे करके जो usually तो चलता रहता था हमारा. तो हाँ, Nagraj Singh comics writer, Momita Bhatt. Yeah.
I do illustrations for kids, but I become very lazy, so I've stopped doing anything. I quit my job. I'm chilling.
Abhinav Krishna, I guess most of you have met me. I write a comic about F1, it's called The Circus, and I'm also an animator and a graphic designer, among other things.
Hi, I'm Rohan. I'm here to record this session. We are actually planning to make a documentary on the Indian comic scene. So, that's it.
What's up? So you again, Bharu, I draw comics, I guess. That's
I do comics.
That's it.
Anup and
He's the one.
Anup from the internet. He's a fan and then you want to see.
He's the neutral voice, I told him. हम सब तो से पढ़े ना.
Basically, since Saad went missing from the scene, so he's going to be Saad camp or something. जो भी, I don't know.
That's not
Because that's the only link he has to comics on my
that even I don't know.
Yes.
I'm Lalit and I draw comics.
Group में ऐसा होता है. Nice to see you.
Are you giving me introductions?
No, he's that's the third degree.
Go on, sir.
Okay, I'm Lalit and I draw comics. That's it.
I'm Shikhan, I'm a painter and I also draw.
I'm Anupam and I write comics. I'm Akshar, I'm an artist and I write comics.
My name is Mayank. I run comic artists. People have heard about it. If you haven't, then you should.
He's the host at his house. I mean, that's a very important factor.
उसका नाइस का नमक खाया थोड़ा सा. कॉमिक ऐसा इसको लाइक करेंगे. And Parth who is
Yeah, I'm a complete Roman. I'm not a jit.
okay. So हाँ, this aim is just not to overreach right now, but to show you that at least have a place where all of us can come together and complain instead of complaining in our separate homes and
Crib about comics.
exactly. So
Why
let's
do I crib about comics?
Okay, not about this is support group or
Not everything in general, like
how it's
life.
going.
I think the objective of it is
हमारे इसमें रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं होगी बात.
That's also
I think that's fine. Yeah.
No, actually, why just go away shows? Why not discuss the positive and then?
Hey, I'd like to hear everyone's favorite comics or like comics.
And I would love to hear from you what about Man of Steel? As a recent hot topic debate, anyways, everyone has been talking about.
Okay,
I didn't like it at all.
Man of Steel.
How many people have not seen it?
I haven't.
I saw the people having blank look on their face.
I've read about Man of Steel quite a bit. Like I've read a lot of reviews about Man of
Have you
Steel.
seen the Iron
And I
Man?
form my opinion completely based on that.
It's as if you've seen the movie.
Yes, yes.
Then you should see it. I mean, at least you expect the sequel would be better. At least you hope.
But I liked it actually. I thought it was quite interesting.
Have you read Superman before?
Superman,
But I
right?
read a comment which specifically said there's only probably once or twice where the word Superman is used.
Once.
Just once.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate thing where he's not yet Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's
again a
like
perception.
Smallville, right? Smallville के last scene is that where
Yeah.
he turned into
But
Superman.
I thought this Superman was. I mean, he did not inspire. Superman is meant to inspire. I
See,
don't
that
need
is-
my Superman to be relevant.
Hey, but then I
But
think
then that's what Christopher Nolan also
No,
brings
but
in
then-
with all his
But his
Batman and
Batman
everything.
is also not really Batman, is it?
No, that's
This
fine,
way-
which is fine. Like I don't have a problem with that. कि मेरे canon से अलग है ये मेरे लिए नहीं करना but just the movie itself, like the plotting, the structure, the ideas, they see
It was a very
you saw it.
dry, joyless, boring
Yeah.
presentation of
Yeah.
Have you read Mark Waid's essay on the
Yeah.
I
He
did.
surprisingly
That's
liked
one.
a part that I hated.
Yeah.
the death of his father?
What the fuck was that? That was really messed up.
Control.
Hey, yeah.
This is becoming one of those anonymous ones.
No, I'm really frustrated because
No,
I don't want to
that
say
one line
on
that
your
you said
question,
that-
on your question that have I read any comics, but I think we have come to an age where a film of a character and the comic is going to be very different. That is what I felt from the Dark Knight series. That's fair
So
enough.
I agree with you. I don't
Because-
need my comics to be representative of movies or vice versa. But there is a certain essence to every character. If you distort it, for example, if Indiana Jones, right, is I don't know, playing in a shakes around somewhere, would that really make any sense? Is Indiana Jones, right?
Those
At least
stock
that's-
character, James Bond, Indiana Jones, these guys, like
I mean, they have
have
their
a
own
certain
persona.
kind of There's that one line about Superman. He's not supposed to save us; he's supposed to protect us. Like that was the key line that makes sense. Like
There's
he
also
will
an
stop
on-
things from
On
happening.
the online, there is also someone wrote a very humorous article about every scene,
IO9.
every key scene on IO9. I think. I think that speaks volumes about the film. If you've read it, but you should still go and watch it just because
Good action scenes. Yeah, good action. I mean, disaster porn as they say, but good action.
I really like Superman Birthright, so I don't know. Kitna pasand hai. That was a really.
Birthright is. I mean, there are 4 or 5 books, Superman books, which are the marquee Superman books. Birthright is one of them.
What? Yeah.
All-Star Superman. That's the most.
He doesn't like Grant
All-Star.
Morrison. He doesn't like Grant Morrison.
I love All-Star. I love All-Star. Then Jeff Loeb, Superman for all seasons.
That's Jeff Loeb himself, right?
I have that.
Superman for all seasons.
वो किसका है?
Jeff Loeb.
Tim Sale.
Yeah, I don't think it's considered.
Yes, it is.
Are those guys married or something?
They did
They work, like Tim Sale works with Jeff Loeb quite a lot.
They did a lot of Marvel.
Marvel, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Blue, Yellow, all those things.
क्या फर्क पड़ता है? I mean, seriously, what difference does it make?
Yeah,
They're married or not?
अरे but they're like
They're always
half the
working.
projects, at least Tim Sale के तो आधे या 90% of the projects are with him.
And they both.
Jeff Loeb is a writer, so he can
Good.
branch out and he can do writing for like.
He has more time, I guess.
हाँ.
What difference is it? Are you scared that when it's Superman will be a hero?
There is also a story that Mark Miller wrote for Superman animated series. They used to come out as a comic series, tied into Superman. Issue number I think 40 or 41. He wrote 22 stories in 22 days. Right? So every page had a story about Superman. And that particular one single issue talks more about Superman than the entire movie. It's an amazing. When Mark Miller was not really that into that zone of kick-ass, and he really enjoyed the Superman.
Miller World and all those. Yeah.
But that is an excellent comic. If anyone gets grabs hold of it, that's an excellent comic. He talks not only about Superman but of ancillary characters as well. Everyone has a one-page story, right, related to Superman. And the last story, I remember the last page story is what everyone is doing on every day, right? Every time, from morning to evening, Lois is doing this, Jimmy is doing this. So Clark Kent, from morning to evening, is writing. Beyond that, Clark Kent is shown as not really sleeping, his bed is empty. And then it comes to Superman from 9 o'clock till 6 a.m. in the morning, he's saving things. In the movie, he was not doing anything at all.
That's what his dad had told him.
Not to save a busload of children.
Yeah, a bus load of children. Not to save him. It's just messed up.
So carry on.
comics, yay.
What are
Yes,
your
the eatables are here. So
you have to lift, glide,
lift,
eat, and then come
lift
back.
your
Can't I come back in
I think for group like this, it's sort of
वरना नहीं उसको ला सकते हैं मेरे
हाँ यहाँ रख सकते हैं ना
वहाँ पे रख दो
सबने बोला लेकिन
let's just get it.
What comics do you guys like really like? Name like one or two comic series that define your taste. Let's say.
There's Batman's Hush, but been a while since I read that. Then there's Watchmen. What was I reading recently? So I read this comic called Why the Last Man really recently, and I think. And उसके पहले I was reading this comic by Azzarello called The Joker.
Right.
So that now The Joker is a very newer comic, and when you go through the whole design scheme and the art scheme, so it's like they're trying to bring out more of the realism into the comics, and sometimes it's really difficult to blur the line where if this is real or this is something that's drawn. So right. So I mean, it's just sometimes it just looks too real. But when I was reading this thing, the Why the Last Man, that's just last week. So it retains that comic flavor.
Right.
The way people talk, the way it's drawn, and the way the story flows, it completely retains the comic flavor, which is actually what I like, as compared to something like which is bending towards the real side. And I think a lot of what I really like is has anyone read Batman Black and White? So it's one story in 8 pages. And there's so many writers and there's so many styles, and it's a skill. You have just 8 pages. You have to write an entire story, and the story should be self-contained. So short stories mainly. That's one should retain the comic book, and secondly is short story. What about you? You write as well, so
Yeah. So I really like. Have you guys read this series called Tom Strong? It's by Alan Moore, and so Alan Moore had sort of like 2 innings in comics, right? Like his first was when he just wrote all Watchmen and those things. He basically wrote Watchmen and changed the comic industry and everything became grim and dark. So when he came back to writing comics, I think there was a hiatus. But when he came back, he was writing for Liefeld. He was writing for like
Image Comics.
Image and stuff like that, which was he was on this character called Supreme, and he started hating the whole dark, gritty, realistic thing.
I just started.
I mean, it's like I don't know what's happened. You have to read his run on Supreme. Like Supreme as a character is completely useless, but this guy goes in and he goes completely meta on Supreme and does it in a very pulp, funny flavor. And I believe that from that Tom Strong was born. And Tom Strong is a series which riffs on all those pulp heroes like your Doc Savage and Tarzan and those guys, like those science heroes, pulp heroes, whatever. And it's a very funny, light, and very interesting series. So that's really.
Okay, how many of us don't read Indian comics? It was like.
What do you mean by?
By
Chacha Chaudhary.
not that way. I mean, something more current.
I have read those books.
Like
Yeah.
there's Ramayana and stuff like this coming out now. So
In comics are also Vimanika comics की
Vimanika,
सब
something
yeah,
about
like
Vimanika.
Shiva and all those.
I don't think anyone-
मुझे कुछ ज़्यादा पसंद
just
नहीं है.
curious. I mean, because I am not up to date.
Obviously, Aniruddha भी better था. Aniruddha was like, he's with Charit Comics is his thing. Rika and whatever, in Charit Comics. Yeah, I have also read some Indian comics.
मैंने क्या देखा है कि like जब भी comic जो Indian peasant comics scene है सब mythological comics scene जो है
We don't really do. I mean, you have either
But
a
it is like
Hanuman or a
Shiva
or a
or-
being or a Shiva. Now Aghori is the flavor.
Aghori, yeah.
And
The 2-3
so basically, whatever we do, we stay somewhere closer to that mythological factor.
हाँ.
ऐसी बात नहीं है, पर I think Just there aren't very.
There aren't a lot of comics also. It's not like you have a regular run of comic. You require that.
There's
for
nothing
some
you
kind
can
of
follow. No one
Yeah.
comes out with a comic every month.
Or even Indian graphic novels, you don't hear much about them. There was a time there was a general interest in the public, like you read Amrita Patil's this and whatever. Like Amrita Patil's recent book is actually looks good. I haven't read it, but no, it's not there like in the news or in the reviews anything.
We're all just waiting for the West to acknowledge and then we'll go.
No, but like that's the thing.
That's how
Because they've done
We've done
with
that's
the
how
novelty
we
bit of the
carry-
graphic novels, right? We're done with the novelty. Acha, we've made our first comics and.
Oh, the
You
novelty
look at
was
the
Power Collection. Power Collection.
How like it was supposed to be nothing.
Nothing really. I mean, not
the
even in
news,
the
it wasn't there.
elite circle did it really create a flutter
Yeah.
that has come out.
और वो हमारे देश में सब वो फाटना बनर्जी वाला भी
So his partner energy is there in that Power Collective.
अच्छा अच्छा
It's there pretty much.
अच्छा वो पाव और समथिंग लाइक पाव वाला
Power Collective.
पाव वाला PAO right
PAO.
ठीक है
So like we came out with small and it's an anthology basically.
Anthology.
It's a thick book and
They put some decent
some decent. I mean,
stuff.
seriously,
Whatever.
there were some
It
decent
varies,
things.
like any anthology, it would vary, right? So, but there wasn't any. I mean, I didn't hear anybody talk about those stuff. Right? I mean, I know like a few creators also. Even they didn't. Even they were like. I think they did it because they were jaded. क्योंकि 6 साल से project चल रहा है.
Yeah, it
तो
was a
ज़्यादा
long
नहीं था. So they
project.
must have they've all moved on, but the rest of the people, even the readers.
The launch at the Max Muller Bhavan was actually so boring. You know what it was about? Them reading how they used to interact with each other over that 6-year period that they have to finish, and they kept quoting the other person कि तूने अपना काम नहीं करा and you have to finish. This was their launch.
So yeah, that bit is also there, but then
So just being
even the readers, you're like.
Do you think those stories are accessible to anyone?
No, I guess not. You have to be
They are
graphic novel literate. Not even comic
Comic.
literate. Just graphic novel literate. Like you have to understand किस उसमें बात कर रहे हैं. There's this thing called Delhi Hectic. That's pretty cool. The captions.
It's a Tumblr.
Delhi Calm is a graphic novel. Delhi Hectic is a site. उसपे site पे they are like they just click pictures of Delhi and they put captions and they make a narrative. So that's like
Photo comic.
Photo. It's a
Okay.
pretty decent thing.
It sounds okay, but it's actually very engaging. Like,
Yeah.
just keep on clicking like आधा घंटा तो ऐसे ही चलेगा.
मतलब that's the thing. It's very no, but it's very.
But still keep doing this. Gags, jokes, and all these things. You might find them bad, but you just keep hoping that there is something better coming. और वो 50 में एक आ जाता है, then you have that hope still alive. फिर पता चलता है 1.5 घंटा निकल गया.
like those explosion वाला comics, you just go through them.
That's scary.
फिर like 10th वाले पे तुम हंसोगे, then you go through.
And then you'll be hungover.
कुछ टाइम पहले मैं बेस्ट अमेरिकन कॉमिक्स का 2006 का वॉल्यूम पढ़ रहा था. तो उसमें इतने सारे डिफरेंट स्टाइल्स हैं और पीपल एक्चुअली राइट अबाउट देयर लाइव्स, जो कि हमारे देश में नहीं होता है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है. राइट,
Write about your lives.
कॉमिक्स अबाउट लाइक
Slice of life.
slice of life of comics and like और different styles भी है. So like हमारे देश में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. I think we all follow that pola, like या तो जो mythological comics में सब एक ही टाइप का स्टाइल होता है, फिर like बाकी सब कॉमिक्स में कुछ होगा. Like there are not many, like I think the problem is ज़्यादा लोग नई कॉमिक्स बना रहे हैं, इसलिए ऐसा नहीं है. बहुत सारे लोग जब करेंगे
Again, that
तो
question comes to the बाद में जो भी हमारा एक क्वेश्चन हमारा चल रहा था जिसकी वजह से ये सब बातें शुरू हुई थी. It was what are we doing for the comics? What are we doing for comics? Despite being comic creators or whatever, but what are we doing about it? It's simple. Apart from scripting, what really are we doing about it? But if you feel that there is a mythology
मेरा drink.
stuck up with people's mindset, where they're stuck in यही करना है, and there are other people who are important and they're doing it, they are the ones not who keep repeating this, but there must be some kind of a market for it. ये बात भी तो कहीं ना कहीं सही होगी. Must be a sellable item. आप एनिमेशन देखो, आप थोड़ा सा मूव करो, you move to the animation side. You have छोटा भीम, you have that हनुमान, you have गणेशा. Where do these keep? Where do they keep cropping? हाँ?
Very big तो है तो.
I agree.
गंदा हो जाएगा यार, खा लो भाई.
अब वो बिल्कुल
मतलब वो कौन सा एक गंदा सा सीरियल आता है ना, एनिमेटेड भी नहीं होगा.
कॉमिक में देखा है वो वाला.
मैं पहले एक भी बार वो एक
हर कोई मिलता है वही बोलता है। देखा है कभी?
2 दिन पहले इसके साथ
पैसे पैसे वापस कर दिए
कुछ महादेव समथिंग।
नहीं पैसे वापस कर दिए थे ना सब घूमते रहते हैं
अच्छा नहीं
सब देख के याद करते रहते हैं
मुझे भी सोचना पड़ता है।
प्लेट पास कर दो यार, ये लोग चलवा रहे हैं कुछ खा नहीं रहे हैं।
तो वहाँ से हो रहा है
फेमस है
वो बात
इसको यहाँ पे रख दो ना आई थिंक लेट्स
वो क्या चॉकलेट
वो और
फुल खा के कुछ लेते क्या?
मेरा ज्यादा मन नहीं है
चॉकलेट है
65 डॉलर 4 सर्विस के बाद
दर्शन से फैंसी पड़ी है।
अभी पढ़नी है कहाँ पढ़नी है यार
वो अच्छी है।
बहुत अच्छी है
सुनो क्या that's very
दर्शन
that reads more like a storyboard for a film
fan
than
animation
I mean
the art is like that I don't think it needs that
but like the way they broke it down also then that could just be the realized type but like they were not action to action कि वो sadly बैठे हैं तो वो मुझे लगा किसी को explain and get down to it इसकी है।
अच्छा यार, sorry I'm getting into a lot of conversation, but I think some of us are meeting for the first time. We each know some of the other person, but as a group, I think this entire group is meeting for the first time. So, any expectations? Why are you here? What do you want to do? Let's start one by one. Let's start with you.
How to kill Batman.
Sorry?
That's why I'm here. Like that was
Not
one of the
possible.
questions, right?
That's not possible.
What?
It's not impossible.
Killing Batman.
that's the beauty of it it's not impossible but it just doesn't happen it's like killing Sunny
Even if you kill him, he come back from the past, or he
see that's why I don't like it
पिट में जाके come back.
वो कॉमिक खुली होगी उसके पन्ने से निकल के आ जाएगा बैटमैन
But you definitely have an interest in comics, right? That is why you are here.
arts in general I guess would be my interest I'm more interested in movies and all that but yeah comics is also a thing in my life that has been there and if you're talking about my favorite comics I'm kind of getting into The Walking Dead but that was through the game they published recently from Telltale that was great
was a good game
yeah and I'm also watching the TV series but I guess people are kind of indifferent about it so
What do you want to do?
I don't know
Maybe learn more about comics, you can pick up more comics. Hopefully,
yeah,
something that is
Have
published.
you read any other comics like Superman, Batman, or any others? Have you read them?
Yeah, 1 or 2 issues here and there, but not like deeply get into any of
That's
these.
fine. I mean, but you've just gone through them. कभी Indian comics पढ़ी है तो
हाँ, Indian comics इनकी पढ़ी है ये.
कोई ना
Like doesn't count as Indian comics. वो one of तुक्का है. Indian comics में आएगा अंगारा, में आएगा
Raj comics.
Exactly. Phantom we you can count because
Yeah, that's
wasn't
what
even big in India, but at least it
It
started.
felt like Indian
Vela
comics.
Bharat.
Actually, honestly, a fact which is very little less known is that the original
idea.
the conception of Phantom. So nowadays they are telling it as, or it was moved to African jungle, but he was conceptualized in Indian.
Yeah. He was based in India.
The forest was called Bengala or something. Bengala, and then for the Indian
And then they
changed
moved it to
color.
Africa, but in fact it was
Bengali.
supposed to be in India.
It's strange because all the natives look African.
Oh, even, it was even drawn as if it was Indian.
No.
It
so
wasn't
the
African.
the
It's
African
like-
was supposed to be in India.
Supposed to be
Instead
like,
of Africa.
Bangladesh, Burma, Bangladesh,
Burma.
that is. So
I think most of the Sundarban Wala portion only that was inspired. Because
I think before this maybe what sounds most exotic. So India
Yes.
and the Orient becomes more exotic than Africa because there's more mystical.
Yeah, but today Indians went blackface. I mean, American. Indians went blackface.
That is
Also, I follow some of those Rage comics. Some guy was doing the Indian version of that, like a Brahmin or what, whatever. I don't remember that particularly, but
Okay.
that was pretty good.
This is a very interesting one. Which one of us actually thinks Rage comics are actually comics?
Rage comics.
Which
Rage
one?
comics online.
What are
Rage comics.
Rage comics.
Those are online.
Those little branded
Oh,
comics.
okay. What? Rage?
What are image
Not
comics?
all of them, I mean,
Facebook पे share होता है।
No, they're not bad.
अच्छा,
That
हाँ,
troll
हाँ,
face,
हाँ,
right?
हाँ,
हाँ, seriously?
There those Facebook वगैरह में।
अरे memes जिसमें use
Memes,
करते हैं,
अरे,
like
yes, that
like
वो-
whatever.
वो
Characters.
that kind of thing you saturated and all that.
Reels बनाते हैं जो
Someone made like a Brahmin version, a Tamil Brahmin version.
उसके अंदर एक face नो
Lighting
नो
up,
dark
nice story.
अच्छा नहीं, those are the Rage comics.
Also following the
That's
That's it.
actually
Sadak is doing
Let's
that.
see. but then
Live
pictures
full
and words वाला तो
Live
यार कहानी बता रहा हूँ।
Fly or
Now we
fly,
can
even Sadak is
quality
photograph.
Anyone can make them. You just go to the site, yeah, you can cut it.
This comic generators and
Or
वो
yeah,
सब जो है.
meme maker वगैरह भी can. मतलब you can make your own.
Anyone with talent,
Rage
I
comic.
mean,
Would you
like-
consider them an actual comic?
What?
I won't. I'll tell you why. Because one, what most of it is that they just take old jokes, like the jokes from the बचपन में सुनते थे, and they put it into the comic. And then end note almost.
But ये
family
family
का
का
भी
भी
करता है।
भी होती है।
ये तो family का भी करता है। हाँ, अरे ये तो
नहीं पर मतलब पर format wise they are
Even format wise, like
कॉमिक भी है बॉम्बो कॉमिक
killing creativity for me.
अरे so what like
No, मतलब
it
see,
could be a
that's-
bad comic but it's a
But
comic.
no, I'm just saying like so basically you have to put a medium where you don't really need talent to make it.
हाँ, okay नहीं।
So
तो
I think it's
same
beautiful,
concept
you know,
It's
और
made into a
same
template, so
talent
like a-
उसके बाद
right.
उसके बाद नहीं है।
No, I think what he's talking about is made into like they've made it into a template, so anybody can do anything, and it'll
But the
result in
question
a
is whether
comic.
they are
It'll be a shitty comic, but it'll be a comic. Like that's the thing,
they're
right?
not funny, but they're not. I'm not saying they're not funny. I really like them.
I like
love
them.
them.
कंटेंट की बात नहीं कर रही बात कर रहे हैं कि
Comment.
very fact कि it's so egalitarian कि कोई भी आगे can make a comic
So why not? Like,
You can't
Yeah,
call yourself
मैं
a comic
अगर-
book maker if you do that. That's
कॉमिक में जोक डाल के मतलब if I make it I'm sure I won't make it funny I'll make it shitty yeah
मेरी कहानी
हाँ मेरी
कल
कहानी
नहीं हुआ मेरे
तो
से
I mean who has the skill will make it a good one
no, but that's a good comic. हाँ.
That's a
Versus a bad
balance.
नहीं मतलब अगर मैंने अपने I pick up a camera and I shoot something and I call it a film, isn't that a film?
It is a film.
It is a film. So like technically it is, but then
People take
I feel it's the open source of comics
हाँ,
open source of
somebody might be able to do something good with it. You know, like that's the thing.
But there's this interesting thing that I've seen with a couple of people. So they started off with Rage comics, and then what they did was they started drawing the actual face of the Rage comic. So then they started drawing the face and coloring it, and from that they actually moved to a proper comic. So I think that way, it's an interesting medium if you want to start off. You're not confident that I can make this.
So, I have another question. When you are already stipulating that anything that is made with a visual and a textual medium, sequentially put in those whatever,
like using pictures to
you are using that, the basic definition. That then it's a comic. Then the question itself is redundant. Because you are already satisfying that. I mean, that is satisfied.
content still
That's
is being
what
produced.
was-
There have been they
Yeah,
are
so it's a
thinking
comic.
of
I mean, there's no-
instances.
there's
No, technically it's a comic.
I think
I don't
not
think
rhetorically sort of.
I'm
देखो
not-
सब comic बना सकते
No, I'm not saying कि comics नहीं है. I'm asking what you guys think. Like he said कि नहीं है. And I've heard the same sentiment online on it. They are not actually comics because template use जो भी हो. But then वही बात है. Do we count that? Because what they're using essentially is a visual hieroglyphics of sorts. कि मुझे ये show करना है. मुझे दिखाना है कि ये he is a single guy who forever alone. दिखाना मुझे गुस्सा रहता है वो horror दिखाना तो that जो भी है. I'm not saying so. तो now
Even in
let's take a vote because I don't think this topic is
exactly.
going to.
it's
Let's
not-
take a
I'm
vote.
the only one who said that.
Actually,
Let's take a vote.
Adila, this is some other question.
That whether it's a comic.
Yeah.
Same with the humiliation.
So those in favor of saying that that is a comic, please raise your hand. I think it's a comic.
I don't know.
Lalit.
Why I am here? I was planning to spend my this evening outside, maybe watching watching the movie Man of Steel, and then I had the option of coming here. So I was thinking about these two options, but Mayank was offering free drinks and snacks.
I'm asking free drinks and snacks. I think this is.
Movie theater
There's
started
a
out
lot of friends
of
that have snacks, but no one has bothered to.
So I ended up here.
Pass out a hat bath this year.
Actually, I didn't want to sit in front of that
Wo snacks na padhe.
big screen, just staring at that,
Pass.
sitting alone.
Sir, को please snacks. अरे आप ले लो ना.
बिल्कुल नहीं, मैं कब से नहीं खा रहा हूँ।
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
So,
ललित अब आप यहाँ आगे तो आपको फंसा के जाऊँगा मैं अभी आप शुरू करो.
I just wanted to spend time with some real people, not sitting in front of my computer or in front of cinema screen.
Virtuals.
So, and my favorite comic book is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 5. If you are talking about a particular book. Other than that, there are lots of good books and series like Sin City, Hellboy, or Batman Hush and Watchmen. There are lots of comic books. And, am I supposed to say
Basically,
anything?
if people don't know you bunch, Lalit, he used to work for Raj Comics, right?
Yes.
And it was pretty amazing stuff. I mean, the traditional superhero variant art. So I'm hoping we'll get something, where he can demonstrate and he can draw something here like this. Why not?
मैंने लिखा था कि if you are an artist, then you hopefully
There is one session for campfire.
I'm saying कि
I'm just saying that
right now के लिए मैंने कोई sketchbook लेंगे तो भी nice पास मैं भी को ले आता है he got a sketchbook.
As we were talking about that Rage comics and that movie thing, I think that technically that is a comic book. Like if we are shooting something from the video camera, that is a film, but that is not a feature film. I think the main qualification should be that are we willing to spend money for that thing? Like if I shoot something and people are willing to spend money for that, then it can be considered a movie or a comic book. If you are reading something and you are not willing to spend money on that, I don't think that qualifies professionally a product.
But then हर person के लिए भी different है. मैं will spend money on all these. मैं नहीं करूँगा. मैं सीधा.
I'm talking about the in general. I'm not talking about a specific.
Is there a market? You are making
As a
effort.
benchmark.
That effort in itself is.
See, you have say concert of Michael Jackson. If I don't go there, that doesn't mean that Michael Jackson isn't anything. There are lots of people. So it's not particular about someone, but in general, if people are willing to spend money on that thing, no matter it's just a plain doodle or anything, that counts as a product.
Slightly off topic, but has anyone seen PKV's and Marco Martin's new webcomic?
Yeah, private eye.
Private Eye. The way that they are rolling it out is that you can either download it for free or you can pay whatever you want to the creators.
जीरो पे चलता नहीं है उसका मैंने कहीं पर देखा है
चलता है
मेरा
चलता है
नहीं पता नहीं मेरा
नहीं जीरो ओवरलोड होगा नहीं जीरो पे करो देन इट all the credit
gives
card
options and
का सब चले
everything
जाता है
it gives options somehow it didn't work for me so and like maybe that problem
आपसे webcomics बहुत आता है. It's free, so you pay the paid.
But someone like BKV doing it, I mean, Brad Gilmore, I think it's a hats off to the guy because he started doing it. I think he's earning pretty good money out of that Private Eye.
Did you read in Robot 6 there was a thing about the sales of Saga?
Right.
And Saga is now the second best selling comic in the world.
Oh, wait,
Abhi
मतलब
right now.
Yeah.
Current like it's sold
Comixology is like the best.
56,000 issues of the first copies of the first issue, and it's doing really well.
First issue of Saga cost now anywhere between $60 to $100 to buy.
the hard copy
No,
56,000 copies.
$3.99.
single issue right?
Single issue.
Floppy.
Saga one cost $50 to $100.
Because of it was
Because it's such a success and it's not going to be reprinted.
so just like speculative.
It's a collectible.
It's a collectible all we do.
That's amazing. But then that's because like BKB is the comic superstar right now. Like there's
There are
only-
others as well. I would consider Grant Morrison as one as well.
See, no, yeah, sure. But then these guys are not sure things. BKB, if he's doing BKB is Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
So if he's doing something that's his own property,
Suddenly,
he will. It is going to be a success.
Success.
Identity brand wants Brian K. Vaughan.
Like doesn't
Can we ever expect this
why
to
the
happen in
last
India?
one,
कि
But you know.
title को निकालना and the खजाना कॉपी से लोग
Azad copies तो बिकने वाली बात नहीं, but
नहीं बस I'm saying can we ever even hope to achieve that kind of a
Not in today's market, but
Even like a bike.
Why not?
way of thinking. So
But-
can we? I mean, who of us are that hopeful?
I am
I would also. I wouldn't. I don't know.
Oh,
About,
man.
I would say that similar response is possible. I wouldn't say
Like
कि.
can we say numbers that kind of a following that kind of culture?
Yeah. I think it'll happen.
It used to be there in the 80s.
ये हाँ वही कहा पहले था but अभी
So there is, and it's starting to grow back because of all the movies that these guys are producing now. Luckily. So, but you know the comic has to be good enough. It's a shitty comic. Content is so
Who else?
let's
What
start.
is the question?
Yeah, so I'm here.
Can we ever have that sort of superstar comic creator in Nikala and then get first week? Number one issue के लिए value like हजारों 10,000 में आ गई and then that sort of a culture where we have that dedicated following.
So are you talking about print or
Print. Online.
Any which way,
Print or
it's
digital?
just
Print or digital?
Online
No, there's a difference.
and-
Because now I think
that is
print is going to be a big
online
issue.
I don't quite.
It's
With the
come out and
the
available.
mechanism which
That's
was
why-
doing
I think digital is still possible. Print is definitely not the way forward. Unless it's a collectible thing again, which has some kind of standing on its own.
I think the
I think for
only
new
thing
things-
that needs to be done is like a good comic needs to be made.
Content is
We've
best.
failed in that miserably. Like we keep failing. We need to learn how to do that. Like,
I have an idea feeling Batman, the practical one, earn a lot of money and acquire DC Comics and hire some really bad creators.
Maybe a good one.
Start.
Batman will
Stuff.
still sell. Batman
So-
survived the cheesy campy era of the 60s.
Okay, let me complete myself. Some really bad creators creating bad comic books of Batman and then make a story of killing the Batman and people will be really thankful to readers.
Like have a whole series, पूरी series बनाओ बहुत गंदी कहानी का.
Like make a
Creative
plan,
Marvel.
some kind of systematic plan for 3
That's
years
a
or
good.
5 years.
That's it.
He sounds like a comic book villain.
Yeah.
And something like that.
That's how you kill him.
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow,
clear हो गया.
Lalit will be found with a dagger that is stuck in his heart.
Otherwise, in comic books, I think I know a lot about the poisons and the gases which we can use against him.
But he's always survived.
Like
so
nitrogen
now you
dioxide,
need something.
The way he's written, he would probably have known that you're going to use that poison, but he would already have an antidote with him.
That's the thing. What
No,
Yeah, he's
you
probably
don't
got
know.
some backup writers.
There are lots of
Yeah.
gases. If you inhale those gases, you won't realize that there is some kind of
But
gas
like
and
that's
you're
like
going to die after 2
same comic
days.
thing. उसमें तो
That.
कुछ भी
Scarecrow has all these potions.
Poison.
Poison ivy.
Hey, Batman is the Rajinikanth of comics, man. You can't beat him.
He's lucky to.
Batman has
Somebody will come
created
this
a
way. Yeah.
Superman.
Something will happen. Nobody else will die.
बहुत बार
The White Knight will die.
बहुत बार है मतलब that's now it's not even a
It's an
thing.
overstake.
It's yeah.
Superman तो
Hey.
सामने kryptonite फेंको भी जो मर्जी करा दो.
That's what he does. Like supposedly, whenever he goes out of Gotham, he has kryptonite. उसमें पड़ा होता है.
So when he goes out of Gotham, he has anything that he wants, he put it. So with Batman, it's very difficult unless and until
You become the president of DC Comics.
even then he will be fired.
Even then, no, you actually have to be president of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Not even DC. DC is
Just
owned
the
by
only way to kill Batman
Warner
is
Brothers, you have to go.
make DC like write real-time comics, and eventually you just die a bold thing.
No, he will not.
Old
He will
age.
उसका बेटा भी
Batman is simple.
Lazarus, but वो पागल हो जाता है.
But he made a clone
जिंदा तो है ना?
Pagal Batman, that's what it is.
Batman of the future है.
और कितना होगा पागल होगा?
वो
Batman.
You never know, his consciousness will go into a computer and he will survive. Depends on who is writing Batman at that
फिर
point.
चाचा चौधरी can be.
So let's not even go there.
These are classics. These are Indian classics. You should know about them. They're back.
He knows about them, I guess.
But it's an Indian classics. How can you just
I'm sorry,
discount it?
but I have to leave. I'm really sorry that. What?
शिकायत तो नहीं है जो अनुभव मकसद में है.
I know,
If you have to leave,
but
then
I'm
leave.
just saying I have 10 minutes.
Oh,
But I don't think we'll be able to cover any agenda within that.
agenda
Was-
can
I think chips.
It's okay, no one read the agenda.
You can finish
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
In
What do
next
you want
10
to cover?
minutes.
When I asked you what you wanted to do here,
So I see last week I had a very detailed discussion with him about certain things, and I thought this week
Comic-Con
we'll
wala
be
thing was
carrying it on.
No, but we need to get
What
to
did
that
you talk
point.
about
We've
last
not
week?
even got to that one. See,
He'll cover for me this week.
Yeah, I think Comic-Con.
he can't cover
But
for
I think-
himself. How will he cover for you?
नहीं but Comic-Con में क्या? What did you talk about?
So basically,
You guys
let's
met-
just finish this first.
I think it's okay. This can wait maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So
after he leaves
हाँ,
फिर असली
okay.
बसदार बातें करने के लिए
अभी से बोल
हाँ,
रहे
हाँ।
Okay, ऐसे करके बात कर रहे हैं.
मैं
Okay,
एक ना
so-
बात में लाना चाहता हूँ. ठीक है, go on, sir.
Right. So last time, right. So last time, what the thing was that we were discussing how Comic Con basically was. Adhiraj has worked behind the scenes. Shiraj was one of the participants, and I was merely a viewer. But so at certain points, we all agreed that we were not happy with how the Comic Con was going, and primarily the thing was that apparently we all think, the three of us,
There was
three of
yeah,
us.
I had a points to say. Sumit we talked about this.
Sumit was also there. There was
the artist at now, and then he became like the voice.
So we thought that at Comic Con somehow the scene seems to be that there's more merchandise and there's very little artists. And when I go there as a viewer, that the artist is always lost to me. I have to look for him. I have to search for him.
But then,
And on top of it, then there's also the thing about the prices. How the
stalls the prices.
the stalls and how expensive the publishing is, and all of that somehow seems to factor to a point where we are left in the background. And whereas, like when the first time I went for the Comic Con, I was really stoked. I mean, I thought, wow, this is it. Now I'm coming to the Indian comic scene. I can see what the scene is actually about. But with the second time, it seemed to fizzle out, and with the third, it completely went bland. So yeah, so you might want to continue from here.
That was one thing. When Sumit was saying it still gives us a platform for comics and artists, and for at least the market to have one particular place.
So this is
as we
what
do.
I wanted to
Right.
discuss.
And then-
This is what I
then I
thought.
said-
how many
levels are-
Indian comic companies or independent artists do you know yourself?
I don't know a lot.
So most of them are online. There are maybe a handful, less than 10, who are actually out there in the market. If you are running a comic convention, would you be able to survive using just those 10 companies?
So if I am running a comic convention, should I be running it
Put
for the
yourself
people?
in the organizer's spot.
Fine, but should
That
I be
was what-
running it?
Shiraj independent.
No, but then run a merch con, right? Like a merch con.
No, no,
Do that.
see, I think about
That's
comics.
Then
I think
that was like me thinking, okay, that is what we feel. But then the Comic Con point of view is he isn't running a charity for Indian
Yeah,
comics.
so
No,
he's
no,
going
but
for
then-
the profit, but
he's
then
not
why call it
He's
Comic
running.
Con?
He has to sustain itself.
Because
Yeah,
whatever
but-
comic
This
he's
is-
calling it Comic Con, he might have started off as a Comic Con that might have eventually, as you said, converted into something else. He's not going to go back and change his name, right? To establish a brand anyway.
So, and
Plus-
where does that leave us then?
Then you can if we have to do it, if each individual Sumit and Shishiraj and me and you, then how would we do
How
it?
will you do it and sustain it? The
Yeah,
problem is not doing it. The problem is
sustaining it. Yes.
sustenance is the thing.
But see, if you're having something in, and it's not like they are pushing it in the name of merchandising. It's always about, okay, Comic Con is about artists, it's about these comic makers, and you'll get to meet people who make comics.
That's how their flyers read.
But you know what? Like they cannot push it also on the basis of Indian comic creators and Indian.
Like that's the
So
thing.
they're talking
It's
about. They're talking about your DC and Marvel can push. We don't deserve like a Comic Con that will, promote only us because we don't have enough to.
So we deserve like the old kind of Comic Con, the San
So
Diego
Comic Con might
basement
be
mein
the
hota
Comic
tha.
Con that you need,
But
but
that's-
not the Comic Con that you
That's
need.
the point, I think.
Yeah.
It's a straight line from that.
We don't have the Comic Con we need, we have the Comic Con we deserve.
No, we
मैं उल्टा कर रहा हूँ. I can't serve. It's good of smile.
Okay, so
Yeah, like with the voice, please. We don't.
Let me share something. The first Comic Con, Bhanu and Swapnil we met at an art meet at the India Habitat Center, and these guys were talking about entering this comic convention. First Comic Con was on art. And I joined these guys. That was my first introduction to comics per se because I had just read comics. That too बचपन में जब मैं चाचा चौधरी बिल्लू हमको ये सब पढ़ता था. Batman, Phantom, Mandrake, Garth, Axa, Illustrated PD वाले थे. All those comics I have read initially. Then I came back to comics and because of them I saw a lot of other, the graphic novels, the Fountain and Cages and all those kind of things. We actually created a comic in 17 days, which was an anthology of 5 stories. Unfortunately, the 5th person never completed his story, and the 4th person's story was a little weakly done because he was a sketch artist and everything. But they were all different. All the stories are different and everything. We actually came out with 10 copies, which we just went and got printed at the local digital printer. We could have made lots of money had we done it the first time, because the first time was a novelty factor and everybody was interested in buying that book. That was a lab book. We actually had a release last year, not this year, but the last year. The second one, we actually released that with 40 Wings, the comic that we came out with, me, Anupam, we are the co-writers, and Manu did the illustration sketching for that. And we went full-fledged into it and completely. When I compare the first Comic Con when I went in as a novice, completely knowing nothing, and the kind of impact that I felt from the crowd that was walking in, it was phenomenal enough for us to think that we need to get into this, wholeheartedly. We pitched in a lot of efforts and money and everything.
how was the reception when you finally launched?
40 Wings and everything. See, second part already, things had changed. The dynamics of the whole Comic Con itself had changed. Even we got an opportunity to come on stage and we got an opportunity and we immediately sold a lot of copies right after that. When we were on stage and we went off. See, the way the Comic Con itself is constructed, the way the movement happens, I know people who were at the Comic Con and we were the first stall when you enter the hall.
The hall.
The hall, you enter the hall and ours was the first stall and people don't remember us because they didn't see the stall. So one part is how do you prepare that brand image and everything, How do you do that? For a small publisher, it is so very difficult and it wasn't cheap. The first year, it was actually on 11,400 or something, that's what we paid inclusive of tax. And then next time we paid, no, we paid 30 plus. But it was a big 40 plus. We paid 40 plus. We paid for the biggest store. And this was not visible.
This is one thing that we discuss. Since I work in the company, I know how exactly pricing is also done.
So tell me something. See, I know that the Dilli Heart guys give it out for. The costing is very low. I understand. Even at this Comic Con, you have a 3-day Comic Con, and on the first day at 2 o'clock is when you get your chair and your table, and that you have stolen from somebody else. We actually stole the table because there was no other possibility. What do you do?
No, that is like mismanagement.
No, mismanagement also. So when you pitch in such a big amount, when you're a small publisher, your financial constraints are pretty much there. You come out with a product, you've done some sort of a marketing on your own, you have to focus on other things. So if you have to fight, put the nails for such basic things like the layout of the stall.
But that was last year, right?
That was last year.
That was last
I heard this time around things were better.
Things
I hope
were
they-
better, but they were
I
more
hope they
expensive. So
things
How does
were.
it
No,
matter?
I actually
There
went
were
as
lots
I went
sales.
as a normal person. So the third year, second year, first year we exhibited and I got to know what it was about. I got really excited. Second year we pitched in, came out with a product, it sold a bit, whatever, and everything. But there was some kind of a distribution because the comics weren't really perceived. Level 10 sold out their stock. A lot of people sold out their stock, but the stock was not that big. If you ask them, Level 10 did not come with their whole stock.
They will be anyways by this time.
They had already planned on going digital, but they should have been with their all stock so that they could have closed out on it. But they didn't do that. I think on the movie, they had that John Carpenter's Mars, whatever. That movie was. So you had very strange kind of stalls also there, which was purely. No, it was not even animation. It was an actual movie based on some kind of comic.
It wasn't even a comic, not based on a comic, right?
Disney Avengers and
Disney
the
was sponsored.
It's a novel.
But that, see, the point is when a person, पहली बात तो जब एक visitor दिल्ली हाट में आता है, what is his expectation out of it? There are only two type of people who
There are two
नहीं,
types.
एक तो वो आता है जो dedicatedly comic con मिला है क्योंकि उसे पता है, और बहुत सारे लोग हुए जो बच्चे और अपनी बीवी के साथ they have just walked in and they walked in, ये क्या लगा हुआ है, and they walked in. So what is going to attract them more? When they see a John Carpenter with a sword लेके and they will do something, that's going to take a. I'm not saying that they should not have these things so that they don't compete with us, but there needs to be a proper
From a business
space.
perspective, Indian comics front, I think at the moment is not sustainable as viable as a business. You have to run a comic con and sustain it, then.
So I think we need to go on to a basement level. Let's do that.
Wait, that's what we're talking
I
about.
think it's a very good idea. Let's
Let's-
downsize it. By downsizing, you actually give an opportunity for everybody.
Earn less money.
That's okay.
But they tried
See, even for me, so
We didn't like. It's not like अगर proportions में देखा जाए तो फर्क नहीं पड़ता ना. We're also spending less also.
But they tried that, right? You guys tried the minicon model.
So Minicon model really wasn't a sales platform anyways. The idea for Minicon
it was
to have
gaming
fun.
plus that, right? It was
Was to
gaming
have
plus
fun.
that.
Nothing else. I wasn't selling it. I mean, at least I wasn't taking any. I mean,
You
I
didn't
didn't.
take charge, yeah.
I didn't take charge.
You were there at the beginning.
These guys were exhibiting.
Yeah,
you were there.
I didn't ask for any money. I did not ask for any cut.
Okay. Yeah. ठीक है, we'll discuss that.
You get the recording.
You're also
Yeah.
tagging along.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Abhinav?
Definitely either next time. I hope it's not next week.
We had to figure out the weekly schedules. हम लोग वैसे नहीं आते.
Actually, छोटे हैं ये
Arjun, yeah.
ये बताइए
मुझे पास करना है रूल
तुम्हारा है
हाँ
Oh, very good. ठीक. You're not there next week.
अरे ये सॉफ्ट शेयर का.
I think Mumbai this weekend, second weekend. So then next.
ठीक है कर लेंगे बोला है.
चलो, see you. Everyone, see you.
Bye. कल समाज में
Closing sentence.
I never did.
Publicity की अच्छा लगेगा. एक बार सब लोग मिलेंगे.
Man, can I get water from here?
Just give me 2 minutes. I'll give you. I think we were talking about meetup.
No, please, okay. What last week at least, I cannot speak for Shirad and Sumit and everyone because it might seem मैं
अच्छा, that guy is also will continue this topic. Let's have a quick round.
Well, let's just
Should we stop
मैं इधर
there?
It's not that.
That just seems unfair that एक बंदे के लिए हुआ.
नहीं है
I am
स्टैंडर्ड होता है पुल दैट लेवल.
हाँ जी.
कोई बात.
हाँ
हाँ तो मैं यहाँ क्यों हूँ
Okay.
So I draw and I'm planning to make comics अभी आगे. So I thought कि like लोगों से मिलने को मिलेगा और like बाकी लोग क्या काम कर रहे हैं वो देखने के लिए और like I might need to the stuff. So
not really inking and coloring for art. कुछ ना कि वो चीकू मीकू की कहानी है.
He didn't tell which story, but he did say that he has.
बताएगा.
क्यों नहीं बताया?
मैंने इनसे वो की थी तो
बात ना खोली जाए तो बेहतर है.
इसमें कोई बात
आगे
नहीं
चल
क्या
जाओ.
हुआ बैडली ड्रॉन कॉमिक्स वाला
तो अपनी comics से बताओ.
हाँ
कौन सी कॉमिक्स पढ़ी है, कौन सी कॉमिक्स
मैंने शुरुआत में मेरे को जो बहुत अच्छी लगी थी वो ओसामू तेजुका की नोबडीज बॉर्न होल जो मैंने इनिशियली पढ़ी थी
डोरोरो.
बहुत अच्छी थी. डोरोरो फिर बाद में लाइक मैं बाद में आगे से पर्स पॉलिस और वो सब ग्राफिक नॉवल वगैरह पढ़ने लगा, वी फॉर वैंडेटा पढ़ी बाद में, तो वो सब अच्छा लगता था। बचपन में तो बैटमैन और वो सब पढ़ते थे, तो मोस्टली लाइक आई लाइक ओसामू तेजुका वाला मांगा वाला चीज़, प्लस हाउ ही क्रिएट्स द होल स्टोरी और वो सब, प्लस हिज आर्ट इज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल, सो मेरे को बहुत सही लगता है उसके पूरे कंप्लीट पेज वाले पैनल जो होते हैं इसमें सैमुराई वगैरह पत्ते वगैरह।
बचपन में बैटमैन पढ़ा था, आजकल
मैं तो आज भी पढ़ता हूँ।
नहीं हाँ सब पढ़ते हैं ना, वो उसमें क्या है,
नहीं पढ़ता।
मैं तो आज भी पढ़ता हूँ, सारी कलेक्शन है।
हाँ मैं अभी भी
मैं अभी भी पुरानी वाली पढ़ता हूँ।
हाँ वो जो देख वो बता था ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट वाली बैटमैन जो है वो मैंने पढ़ी थी जब पहले था, वो बहुत सही लगी थी मेरे को। अच्छा
I never even realized.
Why are you here?
So
I think that's the first question, right?
yeah.
Expectation.
What's your expectation?
So I also think it's awesome when, I mean, first thing is that it's great to talk to other people who read comics and like comics, and I don't get to meet many people like that. So that's the, I guess, the main motive. But then I'd also like to figure out what kind of stories or what is the Indian, like there's evidently something missing in the Indian scene, and I'd like to figure out, maybe we can together figure out कि वो क्या है, कि are we not, everyone needs to learn how to do something. All of us are like first generation comic writers in the sense that we don't have an experienced boss who can teach us how to do something. Like we don't, हम ऐसा नहीं है कि हम किसी कॉमिक्स के लिए काम कर रहे हैं और हमें ऊपर से बता रहा है कोई कि ऐसे करो वैसे।
There's no guidelines.
There's
nothing
there
to
no,
adhere to. There's no.
and we
There's
don't
no to tell you.
Nothing we can look back.
इंडियन मॉडल कोई भी नहीं होगा, मतलब अमेरिकन मॉडल,
मॉडल की बात
मॉडल
नहीं,
भी
I'm talking
मतलब
about just
still you
art.
can-
I'm just
yeah.
talking about art, writing,
Lalit
like that.
would know.
Lalit, for
Raj
example,
comics.
he is a self-taught artist.
No, there are great self-taught artists and self-taught writers as well. But you need to make your own mistakes and you need to know. Like, even if you have Alan Moore, it's not like the first thing he wrote was amazing. It's like
Alan Moore book, I don't
he
know.
used to draw. He used to draw.
It's frustrating for the character.
Mouse के
I don't remember. I just please.
The cat was a wizard also.
So I don't agree. There is already Lalit. I mean, maybe I have a wrong perception. Raj comics में तो there is a style of doing things, right? There's the Raj comics way of doing things. आप चाहे art जो करते हो, चाहे stories, because it's a very, you have large numbers to churn out and everything. Right?
No, there isn't any specific kind of style.
कोई जो आपको, how do you get this thing? How are you told कि ये करना है या ये करना है? You just get a script and you draw on it, or?
Yes, we get a script and we just start drawing them.
No, but
See,
actually,
as far as character is concerned, तो
like,
character तो होगा, but उसके
Yes, see,
अलावा-
I'm
like
not saying-
अभी मैं बैठा हूँ तो मैं माइक मिनियोला के साथ में बैठा, I'm like
हाँ.
working in Dark Horse and I'm sitting with Mike. ऐसा यहाँ पे उस टाइप का
माइक मिनियोला के साथ उसका
जो
एडिटर
भी-
जो भी हो, कोई भी
जो भी ले लो,
मतलब
अगर मैं एडिटर हूँ तो मैं स्कॉट एली के साथ में मैं उसको उसका इंटर्न कर रहा हूँ,
You take the Bakumara manga into consideration again then, which is on manga creators. All those manga creators have somebody they report into who takes in a very
there's someone
intrinsic,
that's basically
involved.
and you don't, here we haven't got a chance to make our own mistakes. Each of us is like what, maximum 3-4 comics old, right? When we must have done much more than
I
that.
think I have done around 35 plus.
So okay.
So,
a lot of us haven't got the chance to
make the mistakes.
to make
You don't
the
get those
mistakes
second and
and
third chances.
get there, and I think we will get there eventually. But yeah, just to get learn from other people's mistakes and kind of discuss what works, what doesn't. Like I'm hoping that the conversation sometimes, maybe a subset of this group or something would like to meet and talk technicalities about making comics as well.
I think most of these guys are either comics or
That's all.
something apart from it.
That's all. Like so, yeah.
मैं freelancer हूँ, मैं घर से काम करता हूँ, तो it's nice to get out of the house on the weekend. That's what I'm expecting. थोड़ा सा similar interest तो बातें करेंगे. हमने ये वाली कॉमिक पढ़ी है नहीं, चलो.
उसके अलावा ऐसा ओके द सेंस ऑफ कम्युनिटी थिंग दैट
चलो क्या इसका पढ़ने जाता
मैंने इसका आवाज सुना
इसके डायलॉग्स तो लास्ट वन टू गो पिछली बार जब पॉडकास्ट वगैरह मिले थे तो पार्क में हमें और कुछ से बाहर निकाल दिया तो पार्क में खड़े हुए अंधेरा हुआ सब गली देख रहे हैं हम लोग तो और क्या बातें करते हैं देन सर चलो मैं जा रहा हूँ अंधेरा जाके उन्होंने लेफ्ट हैंड कर दो सुखी वाई वाई करता हूँ basically the sense of community thing is also valid because again like what you were saying
Not really nice phrase, right phrase.
like what you were saying if I want to be a comics artist then I can look up to Mark Miller and I can okay there is this tradition I can look up where I can start working in this field ऐसा कुछ है नहीं यहाँ पे I mean we do have a Raj and a Bahadur and stuff and मैं काबिल सुखी है जब amazing but not even that मिलके में लग गया he is a fine artist so then story wise भी काम अच्छा है then again there is
No, have you read his Black Book?
I read
Read the Black Book and see his sketches.
is it a fine art book?
No, it's you read that book if you find it.
if I can River of
Document
Stories
there.
there is
The shops.
but I haven't
I think they are. Anyways,
no he hasn't River of Stories just that was the first Indian graphic novel that I could read graphic novels means it's larger format and not exactly a superhero like story like a crime horror horror not counting that so again there wasn't a very incoherent echo आजकल it's so hard to find any sort of तुम क्या कर रहे हो और क्या है are you writing new comics uncommon what are you working on now वैसे करके it's very you would have big chats on Facebook where
like even stuff like I hadn't seen another Indian I still haven't seen another Indian comic book writer's script like I've never seen a script like which is how do I know what is right what
But you don't necessarily need to see, I mean, that's a valid point, but you don't necessarily need to see Indian comics.
No, see, I want to see what
Indian
mistake. No, not just that. Like, what mistakes is that guy making that I'm not making? If I see Alan Moore's script, it will be perfect, man. Like, what can I learn from his script? Like,
But there are
I think there are lots of things you can learn from
No, but I think see, it's more about like
those things
a
are
real life
there,
thing.
yes, in the sense
some
that
kind
those
of
things
a
are
thing
the
जिससे
good
तुम
scripts are
मेरे peers are
really good. Like,
कोई
there are
tangibility तो होती है ना
people
मतलब Facebook पे
things
हम
that
सारे
you are
इतने बड़े बड़े
supposed to
दोस्त
do,
हमारे
things
फ्रेंड्स हैं
are
but tangibility नहीं है we are all I'm sure
from
हम सारे
clips
Mike
of
and you like
people
friends
who
of
are
you
years.
but tangibility नहीं
मैं
है
क्या
so we just see him as this greatness kind of a person we don't see his flaws maybe if we know him
making mistakes
we know Mark Miller we know these guys we understand कि actually when he's working क्या है
by just
maybe I
taking
don't
this
like
you
long
can
life
improve.
but if I meet him I understand his process I'm like shit this guy knows there was a reason why his comics sold in a million and he knows why
change your script so that it looks like
No, but why do you need to tell him what mistake he is doing?
Not so much.
just any
I'm just talking about two random people. Like I'm not talking about like me and. But if that guy sees me making a very like silly mistake that I haven't spotted that he's not making, or that if I see him not making mistake I'm making, then like basically I'm saying that there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more to
talking
learn
about
from
learning from each
flawed
You're
discussion.
talking about learning from each other.
Of course.
learning from each other learning from somebody who's like
But I think yes, the learning from someone who is great also is
when
fantastic thing.
looking for artists
When you say that where are our peers and everything, I still have that question. Where are our peers? This is not a peer group. This is a group that is trying to struggle and come out on top of somewhere.
this is the best I have found so far. Like, I'm sure Bangalore where there are more companies established, more artists, writers companies like that. Uncommon is the only other.
Dude, it's not that difficult. हम जैसे बैठे हुए हैं एक लैपटॉप उस टाइप की तो चाहिए
अरे but
I mean just trying to understand what I'm trying to say.
I can
What
speak
is
to one
raising?
anytime I want. When can I speak to everyone here?
Sorry.
I can speak to one guy, Skype on phone. I can call up
Google
anyone.
में तो इतना कुछ
नहीं but still it's
No, हम तो यहाँ बैठे हैं.
See,
I mean, all of us are sitting.
Hindi-
If we need to Skype with somebody who's in Bangalore,
Basically, you
नहीं,
have
नहीं,
to
नहीं,
Skype with a similar set of people.
but यार तुम्हें देखो तुम Skype कोई उसकी वजह से करोगे ना
Purpose होगा।
दोनों पर्सन का पर्पस होगा ना either why do you Skype? You have a purpose or you're already friends and then you Skype or something like that. You know, some kind of a. So वो वाली उस बेसिक सी चीज की बात करें कि अगर मैं इस पर्सन को जानता हूँ, you know, अगर वो मेरा बॉस है, मेरा अंकल है, and he's this editor, he'll tell me things that he'll not tell me otherwise. He'll not tell just like यार ऑनलाइन कैसे होगा, ऑनलाइन पे कितनी सारी स्क्रिप्ट्स होती है बट नहीं पता चलता है. बट लाइक आई रीड मे बी बोन और मेरे को लगा यहाँ पे जोक वर्क नहीं किया. सो व्हाट इफ आई न्यू जेफ स्मिथ, मैं जाके पूछी जोक वर्क नहीं किया, सो डिड यू थिंक अबाउट इट? आई डोंट, आई हैव नो क्लू. You know, so those kind of things, like learning from a master also, learning from my peers also, both kind of things, but thoda within your grasp.
Personally, I would go back a step. I would need to know that person well enough. उसका phone number होना चाहिए before I can call him. This sort of a thing. Right now, it's only people we know, but like Dalit, I had no idea. मैंने group में नाम देखा था. I had no idea. नाम भी नहीं पता. Now if I need something, I can call you up. अरे मेरे दोस्त हैं और मुझे ये जानना है. ये स्क्रिप्ट देख लो, मुझे ऐसे कर सकते
नंबर चेंज करने
But that's sort of a.
बात ऐसे करती है तो आगे किसी भी नहीं
अब क्या बोलूँ मैं?
वो इमेजिन कर रहा है मैंने से क्या
खैर मैंने एक चीज़ देखी है कि दिस इज जस्ट माई पर्सनल ओपिनियन कि वी डोंट रियली नीड peers to develop ourselves, not that much, because we need to be much more self-absorbed about our art. Because दूसरे लोग क्या कर रहे हैं उससे बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. लोग क्या क्वालिटी वाइज कर रहे हैं, जो लोग हमसे अच्छा कर रहे हैं वो कौन से लोग हैं जिनको मुझे बीट करना है. लाइक इफ आई एम वर्किंग इन इंडियन कॉमिक बुक इंडस्ट्री, तो मैंने स्टार्ट किया तो मेरा एम यही था कि जो एस्टैब्लिश्ड आर्टिस्ट है, जो ग्रेट आर्टिस्ट है इंडिया में, मुझे उनको बीट करना है, मुझे उनसे कम्पीट करना है. बिकॉज जो मेरे साथ में है उससे कम्पीट करने में कोई फायदा नहीं है.
But you would still want कि okay, मान लो you just starting up, you know कि प्रताप मलिक की स्टाइल कैसी है, वो कितना चार्ज करते हैं. Some guy comes to you कि मुझे आपको गाइड करना है, but I'll give you 100 रुपए per page. Now wouldn't you like कि you know enough artists आपके साथ थे, क्योंकि ना तो कि 100 रुपए per page सही रहता है या फिर चार्ज मोर या क्या करें. You know प्रताप मलिक कौन है, I know कि Alan Moore ये करता है. I don't know कि हम लोग कितना, how much can you expect? Would you keep the rights? Would you give, how much royalty can you expect? What's the
inside of the comic thing
industry. You know, I take it back and I say for a company. There's a difference.
No, I'm working as an
What?
This guy said would not have been possible.
You can, but then नहीं वो तो obviously you do master studies in everything, but
anyone.
still, but उसके पीछे का, but I learned more is like
Do you
from
really
studies
think
of
that
artists
someone
rather than their
can cheat you for a period of 10 years?
like that.
Like if maybe
But
the page
point
rate is say 500 and you just charge.
cheated the first time
No.
when you can prevent that.
If you are going to a publication house and the page rate is 500 rupees or if you have 5,000 rupees and you charge just half of it, do you think you can be cheated for long enough, like 2 years or 3 years? Yes, you can do it.
Yeah, what if you get into a bad contract? Then what will you do about cheating? Then you have to
No,
just.
I don't think you will be doing a contract, your first contract for 5 years. Especially when you don't know
But
about
see, that's your own decision, right? That's your own decision.
If you get a 5-year contract, bro,
And yes, in any field, whether it's an art field or in any other field, you need to have that
Hey,
kind of
have you read Gateway Job? You have read Gateway Job, right?
talent to deal with people.
No, listen. Like मैं 17 की एज पे मैंने कॉमिक बनाया था Gateway Job करके. I sent it to a lot of people. Some people were interested, some not. Like that was my उस टाइम पे एरिक लार्सन ने मेरे को कमेंट किया था कि it was nice but it wasn't publishing. Some other American publisher came to me and they were like ठीक है हम publish कर देंगे but we want all the rights, like television, everything, all the rights we want, we'll give you some कुछ था मेरा $100 per page or something, which was decent actually, but I would have to forego everything. So उस टाइम पे I was on this site called concept.org. I just randomly mail people on concept art पे कि ये ऐसा publisher है, बड़ा publisher है, and they want to take my stuff, but they're उन लोगों को मतलब
all rights.
all rights they want. So almost all the people like with good experience, people with experience of like 10, 15, 20 years, they said don't do it. I know कि अभी तुम्हारा ठीक है, मतलब अगला साल का तुम्हारा sustenance हो जाएगा, you'll be well paid, but on the long run it will hurt you. So I didn't do that. अगर मैंने नहीं किया तो शायद मेरे को लगता है $100 that's like 4,000 per page at age of 17 I'm thinking कि shit यार उस टाइम पे मतलब that's a lot of money like if you say कि 40-50 पेज की कोई कॉमिक बन रही है that's a lot of money तो मेरे को भी I was also in like two mind कि करूँ कि नहीं करूँ then somebody told me कि अच्छा just change the contract उसमें changes करो give it back to them I did that they didn't take it because वो ऐसा ही करते हैं then I found out that that's how all of their comic deals are but I couldn't have known तो मेरे को पता ही नहीं होता so that's kind of a thing like just happened you know like so that's how you just
community वाली बात आ रही है community building तब होती है when you're able to exchange thoughts on a basis where you don't feel कि दूसरा आपसे चोरी कर रहा है when you feel that you know it's a very constructive thing and आप एक साथ ऊपर चलते हो आप इंडियन इंडस्ट्री को देखो as far as comic is concerned it's very nascent it's almost non-existent आप look at the number of I mean the population in India is just immense consider the diversity of rural urban and all the areas regional आप इतना सारा देखो when there is so much diversity and there is such a big possibility to actually make money we don't make money because we don't know how to break these bridges amongst ourselves it's a good initiative that at least you know 10 जने बैठ के बात करते हैं हो सकता है जरूरी नहीं कि 10 के मतलब हम इसी 10 में से आगे बढ़े
ऑब्जेक्टिव आंसर होता है इन्होंने नहीं किया कोई दूसरा बंदा होता और शायद
करता मतलब somebody would have decided to just take it and screw it I don't care about the
because
thing.
that has taking that also has some positive things will get published will get recognized
हाँ enough
right now
things.
like
क्रिएटर का तो आएगा ही ना राइट्स नहीं रहेंगे
वही
ऐसा
इतना
क्रिएटर
तो
तो रहे नहीं
वही था but I could have but then it was like given up like it was shown to me कि ये होता है this is how it works it was up to me in the end कि if I do
you
not
do it or not exactly
yeah
fair point
then you at least have the option you can ask consider I mean that's a nice side
because those people I just asked I randomly inbox people मतलब मैं उनको जानता भी नहीं था so either be it's not like I know everybody to a extent right but I know that I can just
but you have the forum यहाँ पे exactly what do I
यहाँ पे नहीं है इंडियन पब्लिशर मेरे साथ कर रहा हूँ समझ दैट you hear about all the bad contracts so even writing में यार even जो author के साथ में Indian contracts you read and you get to know what they're bad it's just मतलब 5-10 हज़ार रुपये मिलते हैं एक नॉवल के कई लोगों को ऐसे इतना बुरा हाल है पूरी नॉवल लिखा है 6 महीने काम किया उसके तुम्हें 10,000 रुपये मिल रहा रॉयल्टी तो आएगा ही नहीं मतलब रॉयल्टी क्यों आएगा बिकेगा नहीं क्योंकि वो ब्लैक में कहीं बिक रहा होगा नहीं बिक रहा होगा पड़ा हुआ है स्टॉक all those things
so it would be more informed about the royalty asset but wait घूम फिर के ये cost वो cost blah blah blah
it gets covered
depends on उसको में फिर से काम निकलवाना या नहीं so वही है saying about a contract 3-4 साल में तो I mean मरवाना ही क्यों है मुझे कहना वो अगर पसंद है तो मत जजमेंट की बात नहीं है पर दिन पे बात है कि wouldn't it be nice अगर there was a club बस कॉमिक्स करना है तो you can go to that डीपी विंडोज टाइप की जो 20 साल से चल रहा है आपको पता है कि ये यहाँ पे प्रताप मलिक वहीं बैठते हैं असम जाएंगे कि बस वहीं बैठते हैं तो सर मेरे आर्टवर्क है ये ठीक है शी हैव सम गाइडेंस प्राण हैज दैट इंस्टीट्यूट दैट प्राण मीडिया एकेडमी वगैरह बट देन वही हम सुमित ने वहाँ से कुछ किया हुआ है दैट्स ना में कर है देन ब्रांच में मार्केट नगर में ब्रांच मैं प्लेटफॉर्म देखा था देन ब्रांच ऑल्सो ब्रांच से वो बैंक के भी जैसे खुद आता है वैसे ब्रांच करते हैं बट लाइक एज सच there's no special
this sort of thing happens when you are look at the kind of popularity that India is generating because it's a
approachable Indian industry के like
pretty common
I don't know like किसी के मैं sorry art comic it's like a cheap editor kind of thing पता नहीं seriously कोई idea नहीं
my point is उसमें उसका gap है जिसमें वो सारे बैठ के 50-50 पैसे दिन में वो पढ़ रहे हैं
पब्लिशर आ गया चलो यार आज जिस पब्लिशर को बुला लेते हैं
they're not there because you don't do it anymore what did that give you more than just reading the comic आप एक दूसरे को मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं आप 10 जने तो कम से कम 4 जने बैठ के बोलते थे कि ये कॉमिक अच्छी रिलीज की ये मजा नहीं है where do we discuss it
whatever ना
so life has slightly changed so those things will obviously be there but how can we change it for the normal
हाँ क्या
why am I in the group
expectation
what's your
नहीं I expect that there will be something which is more holistic than just the commercial aspect. Because when I got into art also, it was not because I wanted to earn money out of it. I had my own HR consulting firm and we were doing pretty well. And I just quit and I started painting and I started writing and then I got into comics as well. So my coming here also is because I've been into it and I've seen that it has the potential, and not only because in terms of the numbers that it can churn, but the kind of I think comics is again another medium which really pulls towards the social cause, structures, the change in society. The comics is a far better medium than movie, cinema and all those things because it stays with you longer than a movie. Movie har hafte nahi aa rahi and then it just goes by. I saw Before Vendetta and I thought it was a shit film. And I read Before Vendetta and I couldn't stop reading it. I actually finished it. It's a thick book.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean and it's so nice. The words that have been used, the artwork that is there, it's just too good. So I would like that.
लेकिन मूवी की एक चीज अच्छी थी, उनकी स्पीच अच्छी थी. Anyone remembers that?
I didn't mind the movie.
He has a solid way where he talks about, it's an iteration, it's a literary iteration. He just talks everything with V. It's a dialogue which is not from the comic.
That was a
Then I like to go with
The first
I
thing,
couldn't resist entry from the movie. It's not serious.
उसकी जो entry होती है.
but I didn't
You didn't like the book?
I didn't hate. No, of course I liked it, but I didn't hate it.
I
I
thought it was
just couldn't
good.
get involved in the movie. Somehow.
It was too superheroically, I would say.
It's true. It wasn't like the.
Maybe it was too melodramatic. Or
नहीं
I don't know,
मतलब
it
the
just
comic is
didn't-
anarchic in its
And I
nature.
can go
It's
back.
completely like that.
It takes only this much to turn a page, go back. I mean, these are the
I think
positives of
Before
a comic.
Vendetta would have benefited from a documentary style of a film. I personally
Like a BBC
Look at
kind
the
of
art.
thing.
Look at the art of Before Vendetta. It's different. It is so kind of different. You don't see it in any comic otherwise. And still, I think it works really well because with a documentary or a part, it gives you that kind of a feeling somewhere.
Before Vendetta, I mean the basic idea, the concept of the comic is that he's an idea. He's propagating an idea. Whether he survives or not, that idea, there will be a legacy and eventually anarchy will prevail. Right? And anarchy is needed because the social norms that have been established right now needs to be demolished to be able to begin again.
Yeah, you've got to demolish them completely. Unless you do that, there will be some cheating, some.
With such a dark
Yeah.
concept, the movie turned it into a very lighter affair.
Yeah, but
आजादी के लिए लड़ रहा हूँ.
आजादी के लिए like, basically what it picks from is the Margaret Thatcher's period of they don't depict it in the movie that much. Like it's
versus
उसको उतना depict नहीं किया गया होता.
So what I eventually, I mean, coming back to that point, what do I expect out of this? I really hope that we can come up there, whoever is involved, I mean, some way or the other, I mean, maybe people would be just impressed by somebody, one of us, goes out and talks to someone and that someone gets impressed and does something right. What I want is that there should be better content that should come out. There should be better policies for people who are working on this. Like when you know, there are two different things. One is the content creator. There's a person, creator own content, right? And there's when you do it as just a freelance thing. It's still such an ambiguous thing in India. There is no contract. When we wanted to do something even amongst us ourselves, I had to do so much. It's just not there. Just not there. Legalities भी अगर आप उसकी डालना चाहो, I went and spoke to a friend, intellectual property and everything. I went and discussed. It's just not there. And which means I did a lot of research and probably I learned certain things. I have not shared it with anyone. Nobody shares it back with me. Maybe they've got some points which could. So where is that common bonding?
So why don't you do something? Why don't you start something online where you put down all the research you've already done? Today social media is the
Even Windows have a whole workshop on legality.
नहीं those guys नहीं legalities वाली भी देखो.
So all of the meetings that EP Windows did, comic artists did it.
अच्छा
मोका वाले में मैं आया था वो जिन्होंने इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी की
No, so these were lawyer friends from Mumbai. They flew from Mumbai, they were here. But it was a similar session that happened in Mumbai.
No, but even after that session, I had so many questions and it would not be good. So there is a fault that I have not gone back and I have not gone back to those people and I have not asked more people even from this group that we should do something about it. Probably I'm also involved in a lot of things under my art. I have exhibitions which I use as my defense that I have not gone back and done much. This year I went to the Comic Con. I was out and these guys were buying stuff, I didn't buy stuff. Anything. I just couldn't stay there. I went to the World Book Fair and I bought comics. It was a better experience for me there. At least there were books. I mean, like here, I mean, it was very difficult. I mean, I know that
The merchandise had even like permeated in the inside wala stores.
Everything was just merchandise. And all that I saw was
the
the
books
books.
went to your taste. That is the thing.
No, first and second or whatever.
World Book Fair you bought comics, so why not have Comic Con? Where they're not.
I just felt bad. I saw comics which were good. I just felt disappointed.
मतलब अगर मैं यहाँ पे भी यूरोपियन कॉमिक्स ले रहा हूँ यहाँ पे भी ले रहा हूँ तो मतलब
समाज just
क्या फर्क पड़ता है लाइक यूरोपियन कॉमिक के लेने में मैं फ्लिपकार्ट के भी ले सकता
That was
हूँ
actually what I did because Flipkart पर कम मिली थी like 500 रुपए का था 500 रुपए
The only thing we found actually मैं एक दो लोगों को जाते थे तो we found those 50% off करके उन्होंने दे दिया इनका बहुत सस्ते में मिल गया तो मैंने ले लिया like those kind of things
that is what I liked about Comic Con. I haven't gone back because soap opera वाले साइड चीजें चल रही हैं but like I would come and virtually with you guys like दिन भर ना not दिन भर but
yeah but it's fun
old वैसे के
well done.
Make sure that
he slipped in
that's how I met Pratik Thomas from Manchester. That's how I met the Vakil brother. That's how I met this fellow. But I'm still in touch with myself, talk about anything. About all these creators and also Jaswant Singh Hans, he would come up from his college. Now he's all good stuff. But I'm saying, ऐसे देखी चीज़ है ना, like that sort of thing is what I would have liked on a hard to say in a community like this, in a group like this. That's obviously at a national scale. So यहाँ सर कोई मसला नहीं, meet once in a year, and meet and you talk and you share ideas. And तुम क्या करो, अच्छा this is the current trend, this is what's happening. So why is it anyone doing this? जैसे that क्यों नहीं बात है, तुम ये क्यों नहीं करते, why you do this kind of shit? But that sort of Comic Con first time that I said first time, maybe because it was the first time that I was because Bombay में भी वही आपको करना है तो करना है, you just get used to the fact. First time it was completely new. So it's all हम हफ्ते भर नहीं सोए थे, we showed up and comic picture जी रहे and everything. You saw me.
yeah
I looked like I live behind the.
उससे पिछले दिन ही प्रिंटिंग हुआ था प्रिंटिंग खत्म हुआ था
Printing मैं तो कहता छोड़ो मार देता है बदल लेकिन क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो तब क्या जिंदा रहना है सबको बट नहीं ठीक है तो सब लोग अमिताभ नीतिका and we were all just talking and तुम लोग का साइन नहीं लगा था तो वो साइन लेकर was it yours someone
it was ours
yours साइन नहीं था तो like साइन sorry अभी लेकर आ रहे हैं let someone run to the printer go to
से अगर तुम्हारे पास font नहीं करना सिरिलिक font नहीं करना it's the most trivial story. I have had better stories, but this is fun for us. No, that's fine.
That is the point, na? You have all these little things.
No, it's not something that I have against you. I'm just saying that I felt that it was missing, and I could still feel that you guys were trying to do something about it, which was not there in the next Comic Con and this one. See, it's a big factor. When the organizers and the people who are who are participants, when there seems to be a gap, there's a pure commercial. Then I'll also be commercial and I'll expect those things to be whatever is on paper should be there.
Like the second year Bluff came in a big stall. That's a smaller stall. Yeah. Set up अच्छे से. They got the artists there. It was nice. Bluff tried hard. तब भी घूम फिर के by the next time around. और level 10 से मेरी बात हुई थी and मैंडरे भी ये कर रहे हैं कि they save up would rather only come for one of them. So they
it makes so sense
because they can't afford it. Not to save time, but like
nobody can afford it.
That is what Shiraj and I were talking
Good
about.
after the last year, launch is wanted to go to the Bombay Comic Con also.
Shiraj का
We just didn't make money.
Shiraj की बात है कि artist focus नहीं है. What he was saying. My point is कि from a business point of view, wouldn't I want more? Then again, from a business point of view, if they cannot afford it, then it makes no sense for me to have a store. I mean, frankly, मेरा कोई सगा तो है नहीं कि मैं इसको ही दूंगा स्टॉल इसको दूंगा नहीं वो स्पॉन्सर करता है.
I don't think it's a bad idea to subsidize for
that is what
because evidently artists cannot afford this. This is ridiculous.
Exactly because I'm self-published. I'm not even sure within Goel कर पाता है. I'm not friends with them. I know what you're saying because सिटीजन कॉपी सिटीजन सब कुछ स्टॉक लेके आता है
पूरा थोक के बाद लेके आता है और थोक के बाद बेचता है।
यहाँ तो क्लाइंट ना कि वो स्टॉक वो
स्टॉक उसका अलग आता है,
रखे रहते हैं
स्टॉक उसका अलग आता है।
बट also keeps the platform उसका स्टॉक नहीं होता है
नहीं पर उसका but then that's a different thing. He's putting it like a proper publisher. उसका काम भी तो थोक वाला है स्टाइल की. It's like Vimanika. It's competing with Vimanika. It's not competing with Mantar.
उसका
Right. So it's in
कॉमिक
that.
कॉन में मतलब अच्छा हो जाता है, उसको ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता, उसका सेल हो जाता है।
they get punished लोग थोक में जाते हैं
But isn't that the same story
everywhere I'm when you San Diego is any
Yeah,
less
San Diego में भी यही होता है. एंथनी का गोली आती है, किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
San Diego is no longer a comic convention.
No, obviously, like you go there for the previews and whatever.
community का पैनल होता है
Cosplay.
Firefly के fans होके रोते हैं वहाँ पे और
The only thing good that they have is they have an artist gallery.
artist gallery
Gallery.
rates comparatively बहुत हैं if you even translate the cost
Even
sharing a desk
वहाँ पे
is
the
free.
sale is also on a different level. No,
But
you have to realize that part.
but
वहाँ पे
they-
fan following भी नहीं है.
वहाँ पे तो
You know that
$1000 $500 ऐसे.
You remember Danish Adler?
Sketch
Danish Adler, who was from Dubai.
one of the
He was just doing sketches, right?
which is the model जो बाहर पता है you index cards के लिए rates fix होते हैं दाशें के लिए
And that's what he was doing. And he would sit and not do also at times. And he would say, I'm tired. You won't know that, but he actually did that.
I agree because
I'm not
बहुत बार
tired. उसका plan है कि दिन में 4 करने हैं, 2 करने हैं, 5 करने हैं, whatever his target. He's achieved it, he's sitting.
but I'm not sure if he came back and he didn't go somewhere else because I don't know why but he is experienced like into the foreign context. Dubai में जो हुआ था वहाँ पे was like from what I know I'm not that much but Danish came there as an artist artists cannot afford it यहाँ because artist corner those छोटे वाले stalls की भी cost नहीं है
I think the artists who come, I think they lose money. Like they properly lose money.
what was completely abstract comic ना इसके
Akash.
I think you know him
Yeah, neither from.
Akash oh yeah because he came and he did very badly from what I know that's
No, first time he did really well. In Bangalore he did badly.
okay
No, he sold out in Bangalore.
In Bangalore also.
No,
Akash
no.
did really well.
He's not reasonably well.
No, but even then he only breaks
No,
even.
but उसकी चोरी
Even then he
about-
only breaks even. That's it.
He broke
Like
even.
amongst we were discussing, we had a
If
few
you
other
can
friends
break
and
even,
like
that's a big deal.
inside Swal
That's
came. We
fair.
were
Not
discussing.
breaking even, but you have to consider that he lost about 50 comics from the Delhi Comic because he was the only one there.
तो वो स्टॉल छोड़ के गया तो
कहीं से स्टॉल तो छोड़ के रह नहीं सकता, जितनी देर में आप बात करो लोग उठा के चल जाते हैं.
नहीं चलो वो
And he can't do anything. किस
वो
के
तो
पीछे भाग गए?
नहीं but even them or even
हाँ, but somewhere उसकी fault है क्योंकि मतलब you should have had somebody sit down.
ठीक है जो भी हो
even they just broke even, right? That's it.
Yeah. No matter how
Because
much.
learning हो गई ना.
They had he broken even, he would have probably also invested in
So
something.
that's a cost to learn something.
No, why not the person who sold the most broke even. Like amongst the smaller guys. That was the thing.
The independent artists in the set.
जैसे राज कॉमिक्स क्यों नहीं आती?
आई तो थी बैंगलोर में.
मेरा संजय जी से बात
सॉरी
हुई
मुंबई में आया था.
बिकॉज
कौन?
Last game once.
First he always comes.
मुंबई में
वो दोनों आते हैं
मुंबई
वो.
में.
कौन?
अमिताभ भी आ रहे हैं. अब तो अमिताभ is no longer with
अमिताभ
Silva.
अनुपम सिन्हा.
Actually,
Actually, उसका starting में when he was started the Comic Con, he first went to Raj Comics before everything started, but he didn't have a proper plan, and those guys were not convinced about it. हाँ. उसके बाद उनका बैंगलोर कॉमिक कॉन में उन लोगों ने स्टॉल लगाया था. फॉर दिल्ली कॉमिक कॉन उसका जो उसका शीट वो भेजता है स्टॉल में, वो स्टॉल में उसने भेजा. उसके बाद the stalls which Raj Comics wanted were not available, which were shown that they were available were not available. और Raj Comics छोटा मोटा स्टॉल तो लेगा नहीं. उसके बाद like he was not very कुछ भी पक्का नहीं था. like पहले स्टॉल शीट भेज दिया, उसके बाद फिर स्टॉल सिलेक्ट किया, फिर बोला कि स्टॉल अवेलेबल नहीं है. फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने कहा ठीक है कोई दूसरा स्टॉल ले लो. फिर ये हुआ कि ठीक है हमें दूसरा स्टॉल नहीं चाहिए. फिर वो बोला कि नहीं अब स्टॉल अवेलेबल है. So there were things like these, and he also is charging more for if you are taking 2 stalls. There is no discount. There is premium.
Dedicated.
There's premium.
Yes, like if you, I'm not sure about the rate, but if you like it, there is 35,000 for a single stall.
Right.
The next stall won't be 35,000. It will be 45,000.
Very good.
That's terrible.
So they were really, Raj Comics was willing to pay that amount also, but उसका जिस तरह से था, so they didn't like the
So
way he was
there's
dealing.
a premium if you want 2 stores.
They all, अरे
There is no discount. There is
मेरा
premium.
स्टॉल 35,000 है, दूसरा स्टॉल भी लोगे तो वो 45,000.
I'm not sure about the exact amount, but
Yeah, but like
it's
it's just-
sure that he's asking for premium if you are taking more than 1 stall.
यार वो तो कुछ नहीं होता, सामान बेचना है.
बट उसका ट्रेड प्रैक्टिसेस जिस टाइप से है उससे मतलब जो भी वहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं वो खुश नहीं.
Yeah, but let me tell you something else. ACK का इस बार भी जो स्टॉल यहाँ था और ACK का जो स्टॉल बुक फेयर में था, हाँ, that was amazing.
बुफे वाला.
Book fair was cheap. I don't know, but it was a very big stall. Might have been cheaper to get it there, but it was amazingly made.
ACK की बात है कि ACK is a इसके पहाड़ है.
And I went on the last year and they didn't have much stuff left.
ACK has 40 years of stock. ACK has a following. मतलब जो set जो the complete set जो 10,000 का set, the whole thing. They had like 5-6 लेके आए थे. They sold those on the first day. Those second बार में था. Those people लेंगे.
उन्हें कुछ करने ही नहीं पड़ता.
उसको कुछ नहीं पड़ता है. which is वो लोग तभी कर रहे हैं. This
But
is
then
not
compare
बची नहीं है.
their
हर साल भगवान
but
करते हैं.
compare their investment. Both the things were happening at the same time. If the book fair or they were happening at the same time. It was ending of that day.
They were roughly the same.
Yeah, around the same day.
Plans
The investment that they had made, not only a
वर्ल्ड को crowd के फिर पहुंच जाते हैं.
I'm saying that the kind of investment that they made into the stocks and the display at the book fair and what they had done here, they were not comparable. It didn't seem to be the same company at all.
The world book fair was done and the
नहीं यहाँ पे तो मतलब बहुत जगह
small
भी
things
नहीं
had it, but still they
है.
had the setup, they had people
It was so basic. It was very basic. You didn't go to
Like
the-
comparing-
Bangalore
comparing.
it's decently big, but yeah, वहाँ पे तो ये तुम्हारे book fair में तो they just put up shops like almost.
No, it was a big one.
हाँ, exactly. Like they just put up like they just move a shop. ऐसा लगता है कि shop में चले गए.
वो 4 स्टॉल लेके one massive.
No one buys one stall.
नहीं, all these
So they always come out of the book fair.
random
हाँ,
amount.
they
No,
buy
20
बहुत
onwards
सारे-
we also took the book fair. World book fair 20 onwards we went to the
इस बार ही था ना.
मैं खड़ा था वहाँ पे उस
हाँ,
time.
हम भी आए. हमारी मम्मी भी लिखी थी.
छोटा भीम still sold the most. China.
See, there are some learnings that you get from what people pick up and buy. So again, we come back to the question: how do you educate people to? We can build any kind of a community. We can do whatever we want. We will not reach the masses unless and until the masses want to be associated with something like this. So how do you?
People I am sure didn't pick up Chota Bheem because of masses. People picked up Chota Bheem because of brand recognition and the value. So that's the chill.
I agree.
अगर आपको basically whatever you are producing, what is you
What
have
is
to
your
define what is
target
your
audience?
aim of your production and then correspondingly attack the target audience. अगर आप बच्चों के लिए बनाना चाहते हो तो you will target children. अगर आपका overall motto सिर्फ पैसा कमाना तो you will target children. आज की डेट में comics.
But like even in children, then what make good children?
Yeah.
See, this content वाली बहस we already have, but this is something for a separate time. I think we should jump in.
इसको भी अच्छे तरीके से दिखा सकते हो ना.
I
मतलब
think
content-
India में सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ये है बच्चों के लिए कुछ भी बनता है वो बच्चों के लिए बचकाना बनता है. That is extremely cheap quality product. And बच्चे
Pandering to a certain everyone has a word complex.
They're hitting it.
वो बस उसमें थोड़ा हिंदुस्तान का तो मतलब लोग सोचेंगे कि हाँ थोड़ा भगवान वगैरह के बारे में सीखेंगे बच्चे.
मुझे
I think
see if you have a good product that will sell.
Yeah,
But I feel that we don't have enough good products and not enough numbers.
अक्षय धर्म शुरू हो गया.
I see a lot of videos is available when to Rostam talk there was some
नहीं वो तो I'm guessing is
Publishing
publishing
is the
exactly why were they doing
पैकेज करके निकाल रहे हैं.
instead of doing that they could have gone with a new IP.
So he's like Holy Cow is profitable and
मुझे exactly figures नहीं पता, but from it seems that Hooligan is doing okay.
Hooligan is growing. It is growing. It's not earning big profits, but it's doing well. Like for someone who has been there for
I think Vivek has an idea what he wants to do. So this year I want to do this, next year I want to do this. This year I want to focus on IP, next year I want to focus on this. So he has a plan in his mind.
See, what I feel that in comic industry there are no like a miracle kind of thing that you will publish a book and you will get a lot of sales. It's like a process. You need to create a kind of brand value for that thing. Superman was not like, even in that time period he needed 50 or 30 books to get established as something as a brand. But in India, what I have seen that most of the creators or the publication houses are not publishing that much number of comic books of a good quality. Like
आज का production unit कितना होता है per month, मतलब per set का कितने numbers निकालते हैं units?
मुझे अब नहीं पता आज के टाइम में, but when I was working with them, there were I think 6 comic books in a set.
नहीं per unit कितना होता है?
कितने
कितनी
इशू में एक इशू की कितनी कॉपीज
Usually, when I was working for, when I started working for them, I think my book was being printed in 6,000 copies. That was Super Indian. At that time, Nagraj was selling around 15,000 copies. So
it's not a lot.
Then I started working on Nagraj, and even at that time, the Ankon Sinha started that Nagayan series. If you have read about that. So their sales increased and they started reprinting issues. Like sales must have gone into that 50,000 range.
15,000 copies में राज प्रॉफिट निकाल दिया.
I don't know about that. He basically Sanjay Gupta is a comic book fan and he does this for the love of comic books.
But इतने साल तक आप सिर्फ लव के लिए भी कर सकते हो.
But yes, they earn a decent profit, not like big margins.
80s वाला तो नहीं होगा.
80s वाला तो सीन है ही
नहीं ना.
मैंने बड़ी मत कर दी है हिंदी कॉमिक्स.
I went and met Harvinder
But
Manthal
यहाँ
and
पे-
all who used to work on Motu Patlu and Road Code and all those things.
बट बात यहाँ पे वही है कि जिस टाइम पे बुक्स अच्छी आ रही थी उस टाइम पे सेल्स बढ़ा है. When he was doing Nagayan and when I started drawing Nagraj, उस टाइम पे नागराज का सेल्स बहुत बढ़ गया था. Like 3 or 4 times.
25,000 यूनिट्स मैंने आपकी 100 फुट इंक्रीज किया. 25,000 यूनिट्स में कितना प्रॉफिट आता होगा?
मुझे नहीं पता.
But
आपको कभी नहीं
production
पता
cost
चल
बहुत low है
सकता.
ना. Production cost is, see, what you use, it is the margin that you make. Na? It is not about.
बट यहाँ पे वही फैक्टर काम कर रहा है ना कि वो लोग रेगुलरली कॉमिक बुक्स निकाल रहे हैं.
तो मतलब कॉन्शियसनेस में तो लोग हैं
Because a comic, it's not like a movie that you release a movie and you know it will get super hit. अगर आप बहुत अच्छी बुक भी निकालते हैं तो आपको at
10
least
साल
वो
लग सकते हैं.
लोगों को कम से कम 15 से 18 महीने तक वो चीज़ मिलनी चाहिए उनके सामने. Otherwise people will forget about that.
But Lalit, हम discussing कितने 25, 30, 40 रुपए कितने की होती है?
At that time it was 40 rupees per book.
और कितने पेजेस की? 24 पेज की.
That was I think 40 pages. 40 pages and 40 or 50 rupees.
You were drawing 40 pages a month.
Not it takes me more time.
Guidance for 60
It took me around 40 days to draw.
Which time की बात है?
अभी तभी बना रहे हैं.
Shadow was something like
Huh?
you were with Raj about 4 years back.
5 years ago. 5 years ago I was there.
90
And I worked for them I think for 4 years.
शादी वगैरह.
I worked with them I think for 4 years or 3 years.
अच्छा खाने में ऑर्डर करेंगे.
I left leave अभी. Listen, we'll
So I have been curious like all of you are creative, most of you. Why not you doing regular comic books, like doing comic books regularly?
That is a very good question.
Because-
that's why I wanted someone from the mainstream courses. हम सब तो वैसे तो बहुत आर्ट्सी वार्ट्सी वो है, हम ऑस्कर से बनते वगैरह. Why aren't we getting work? Get to the bottom of it.
So why aren't we getting work or why aren't we doing?
Yes, I have the question that why aren't you creating that much comic books?
As far as I am concerned, Sumit and I have wanted to do आपकी बुक हमने कर दी. मुझे थॉट कि ह्यूमर में कुछ नहीं है, हमें अपना काम करता है, हमें शुरू करते हैं आपको. इससे अजीब वेब कॉमिक कॉमेडी इंडियन फ्लेवर है और वो इंग्लिश में भी है और हिंदी में भी है और कार्टून भी होता है और गाने भी होते हैं जो भी हम कर रहे हैं वी फेल्ट द गैप चीज़ हमने कर रहे हैं वी मतलब वी माइट सी आगे क्या करना है बिकॉज पैसे भी कमाना है तो फ्री करेंगे बट वो कर रहे हैं आई हैव पिच्ड थिंग्स टू बाकी लोग ऑल्सो बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इट कम्स डाउन टू पैसा publisher will only try to fund a certain type की चीज़ which he thinks will sell. Makes sense. मेरे पास पैसा होगा मैंने भी यहाँ तक कमाया. I will not put it into something that I would not want to write. Why don't we do superhero stuff? Why don't is it that hard? I mean, like one time you said, why don't we make what is it? Something that
I was talking about just like making books for
a market.
For a market.
हाँ, वैसे ही.
Like तो. Like there are lots of new things we are seeing in the market, like this Meluha phenomenon, you know, we saw Chetan Bhagat, वगैरह. So and why does no one like, yeah, अगर एक चेतन भगत है तो और लोग आके रविंद्र शर्मा है जो कि है वो आके लिखेगा और लिखेगा भी. But then like why do so many like why don't we also try something like that? I'm not saying that I would try something like that because I think it would be really boring. But it's पैसा है वहाँ पर. Evidently there is money over there in that market. So that's what we were talking about.
The same way this can be translated to why aren't we all doing drama comics? Why aren't we all doing the sixth thing? As a rough thing.
No, I think this question is different. This question is कि हम काम नहीं क्यों नहीं करें?
Yes, I'm asking
This
that
question is
as a comic book artist, you should be doing at least 10 comic books a year of 22 pages. But
We are not all artists.
why? Like as a writer or
That
artist,
is-
as a creator,
That is what I was getting
you
into.
must have at least say 200 pages a year to your credit. So
That is what I was
why are you
getting
people not doing that thing?
As far as I am concerned as a writer, मुझे एक टाइप की कॉमिक करनी नहीं. मुझे
तुमने कितनी कॉमिक्स लिखी? I think that's what his question
He's
is.
talking about is it because we aren't getting because people aren't paying us to
I think
do
I understood.
We are still not doing that.
like basically why are we making
We're going to do it only
We
when
say
money is
that we are
available.
Like you are a good creator and you can create a good product, but where is the product?
fair enough.
Where is the product?
That's a very good
You won't have any kind of income without a product.
Yeah.
I think
Like even if there are people who want to buy comic books or even you want to create a market, there should be a product.
I think it was
But if you are doing like one graphic novel in 3 years, you don't have any kind of market.
It's a catch-22 situation.
But I think the main reason for that is that
Our problem is that there is such a lot
people
of
pay
cost
you
involved in this sustaining
but
ourselves.
it's not even that way.
This is also
That's
How
why
do we
it's a
even
catch-22
approach
Exactly.
people?
How do you-
how do you
Like जैसे
see that's what
like
I'm
I would
saying.
think
That's
something
what
should
I'm
have
saying.
been like
सारे-
right for
let's-
pixels
let's
and
include
stuff
that.
like that. So I should that regularly because that will pay me. But I don't have like someone who would fund like pay me to write a 22-page monthly comic.
So basically, you're saying that you want someone else to pay you to write a comic, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That
And
is
you don't
that
want
is
to put-
fair.
No, I would if I'm doing my own stuff, then that is different. Like
So he's also saying why you're not doing a lot of your own work.
no, but he's talking about income and he's also talking about like
And there
sustainability.
is one more thing, like in any creative industry, no one will pay you for what you want to do.
No,
They will pay
of
you
course
for
not.
what they want.
They want to
See, and
उन्हें काम क्या निकलना है?
before people start agreeing with your opinions, you will have to establish yourself.
Sure.
See, अगर आज से 8 साल पहले मैं राज कॉमिक के पास जाता या इंडियन किसी और पब्लिशर के पास जाता, see, I have this concept of a new character, वो कोई एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता. Raj Comics would have said कि no, we don't want this character. We want you to draw fighter toads or this tiranga or these kind of things.
No, but even that, like only one person can write or draw each one of those things. Right? Like I don't think, मतलब, do they have like vacancies often कि कोई
You
मिलेगा?
can go artist and writers will not people can write. उनको भी तो
हाँ,
वही
वही तो।
comics story
नहीं, but
लिखना
already
है।
अगर creative content होगा तो उस पे only an n number of people can work on it, right? Like you still
Yeah.
need for a bigger, अगर तुम्हारा creative pool बड़ा होता है
Just
फिर क्या
suppose I
करोगे?
go to Raj Comics saying that I want to write comics for you. Will they have a place in it?
Yes.
Yes.
But you have to write according to
Yes.
But
their
still have to
standards.
write
That is-
according to their
No,
sensibilities.
no,
and
that's okay,
according
but
to
just say-
what they
Their
are willing to
characters
write.
and whatever. The style is
You have to compromise.
No,
Yes.
that's that. I don't think like अगर if you want
Yeah,
to work
compromise की
professionally
बात
then
नहीं
you are
है. Like,
always
that's the thing.
compromising.
Compromise की बात नहीं है. It's like जैसे who's the artist वो Shadow of the Bat वाला कौन artist था?
Shadow.
बहुत सारे हैं Shadow of the Bat.
नहीं
Alan
उसमें
Grant है काफी.
Alan Grant नहीं जिसने उसका पेन वाला art किया था? But like one of the artists, he was like उसको 80s में he was famous, not famous but he was doing well, and then उसका काम went on, मतलब ठीक है, they started changing direction in DC, and then he was like, okay, whatever you want, I'll do it, but they had different set of artists, and you can only accommodate so many artists on a Batman. So what he had, he compromised, he went to Archie's comics. So it's not like there are not people also to compromise, but like again, if you're being sensible, you can only have so many Batman, so many X-Men. So उसके बाद भी तो क्रिएटिव मार्वल को भी तो और क्रिएटिव कंटेंट निकालना ही पड़ेगा ना, वो बात भी तो है. लाइक दैट्स आल्सो आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि अगर मैं मार्वल के पास जाऊंगा तो आई विल कम विद दिस avant-garde लाइक क्रेजी एस अंडरग्राउंड कॉमिक्स. नो, आई विल प्रोबब्ली गो विद अ सुपर हीरो थीम जॉनर वाला टाइप का, पर मैं नहीं तो मतलब ठीक है कोई थोड़ा सा एस्टैब्लिश, पर उसको भी पुश नहीं मिल रहा ना. मतलब ऐसा तो नहीं है कि सागा इज लाइक अ वन ऑफ थिंग, पर वर्टिगो एंड
Image is right now the king of the new content that is coming up. Most of their first, I now almost I did all Image, and each of their comics is brilliant.
Yeah.
Most of their first issues are hard to get. Chew, for example, right? Skull Kickers, very different content, very different genres. Lazarus is releasing this week. Fatal released, again an amazing book by known creators. Morrison did Happy. Happy. It's a 4-issue.
So nice.
Image. Most of the good established guys now, after having themselves established themselves with the bigger guys, are moving to the Indian
सबको
side.
अपना ही काम करना है.
So why not that route here? Why don't you work with either Holika or Raj or something else, and once your name is established within the community, go out and do your own thing.
उसमें भी तो एक वो होगा ना, माइक
established नहीं हुआ. He did a lot of comic books to establish.
As a route, that is definitely a plausible route and it makes sense.
हर कोई आर्ट स्पीकर पर नहीं है कि उसने अपनी आर्ट ऑफ फॉर्म
नहीं, बात वो भी नहीं. मैं बात ये कर रहा हूँ कि बैटमैन का भी तुम कितना निकालोगे. अगर क्रिएटिव पूल ज्यादा बड़ा हो गया तो फिर तुम क्या करोगे? Then again it becomes, it's like
But what I'm saying from experience is, what I'm getting is that the creative pool is not big enough. Like,
in the market.
वो नहीं हुआ है कि saturate नहीं.
Then another factor comes in, then just compromising. You have to compromise, you have to be good, you have to adapt. Then another dynamic.
That works with any work that you do.
Kind of work.
Even if you're in the IT industry or in advertising industry, you have to know your job, you have to do your job well, and you have to compromise.
Yeah, that's all fine. But the whole thing is कि there should be some kind of a subset as well, where you have, even in these companies you have some kind of a जहाँ पे पैसा फेंकने वाला होता है. Like all of the animation companies, बड़े का एक section होगा जिसमें पैसा फेंकते हैं, उन्हें फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि उसमें they'll probably be just doing it for like critics and all that stuff. Vertigo was just that. Vertigo has never sold a big amount for DC.
Vertigo changed their selling platform. They never sold in single issues. But,
but it's still not.
Trade paperback market.
No, yeah, that's okay. But it's still not. If you say कि उनका सबसे बड़ा sale, Vertigo doesn't come, right?
See, Vertigo, for example, Sandman, right? It started off in DC, eventually transitioned into a Vertigo environment. Now Sandman sells more for them every year than probably some of their books.
Sandman से ज़्यादा, I think, because Neil Gaiman is so famous celebrity.
I mean, okay, let's not Fables, for example, Transmetropolitan, Preacher, all of these comics sell more on a regular basis than your new comics that come out.
जब उनका actual print run था,
उसमें नहीं sell.
हाँ तो वही पे तो ना, तभी तो at that point of time somebody had some kind of
They changed the market.
faith in them
To continue.
उस टाइम पे तो नील गेमन नहीं था ना. उस टाइम पे तो something was there. उस टाइम पे
जब उनकी सिंगल इशू बिक नहीं रही थी, तब भी कोई पैसे डाल रहा था उसमें, कभी
पैसे डाल रहा था DC.
हाँ, तो मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, एक सबसेट होता है, एक सबसेट की बात कर रहा हूँ जो उस क्रिएटिव पूल के लिए या फिर अपने ऑलरेडी जो तुम्हारा क्रिएटिव पूल है उनकी थोड़ी सी नीड्स पूरी करने के लिए.
देखो उन्होंने पैसा क्यों डाला, वो भी तो सोचो. उन्होंने पैसा डाला 90s के एंड में, ठीक है, like beginning 90s when the comic industry in US had crashed.
Yeah, after the boom.
So that was not something that they were doing out of charity. that
They
was
needed
a
it.
need for survival. They needed to adapt to and they needed to make a product which related to a mature audience.
Like Hollywood in
जिसने
70s,
60s
I
में
guess,
खरीदा
the
था,
equivalent of that.
जिसने 60s में कॉमिक्स खरीदनी शुरू करी है, he would have been 30-40 years old. ठीक है, उसके बच्चे पैदा करें. You write content based on them. Market में 96 में there was a bankruptcy. Marvel चली गई. If people know about it, Marvel was bankrupt in 96. ठीक है. DC Comics was starting to come out with Vertigo because their own comics were not selling. So they had to do something.
Why did this happen? Why was there a crack?
Because of the entire image boom. Basically, 5 or 6 artists decided they broke away from Marvel. They launched their own company, which was Image. Because the art was exceptional. Eric Larson,
Rob Liefeld,
Suggesty, all of these guys did exceptional art. Because they were so famous, they sold first issues to the tune of 1 million copies.
But अभी वो क्यों नहीं होता? Why is no one selling 1 million copies?
The market has shrunk there as well.
No,
For the
shrunk,
same reasons.
but you-
Video games are more lucrative right now.
Yeah.
The graphics have improved. Television shows, CGIs. I mean, people go and watch movies, right? They enjoy Superman in the movie,
Right.
but they would not go back and read Superman.
What I would like to get back to is how this would translate to us, like the
Whatever India will see, the problem is India will go through something very similar to what people have already gone through. in
Yeah,
US. And it's for every industry. So why don't you take lessons from what has already happened in US?
Why no? That's a very good individual one. Like if we have Babu
Yeah,
Diamond
Babu.
and Raj Vagera, why aren't they having their own Vertigo? Like why do they have? Because wait, anyone, not anyone, but काफी लोग कर रहे हैं the mainstream, the whole superhero like type की चीज़ें. Personally मुझे वो नहीं करना है. मुझे मुझे वही नहीं पता है. मैं कॉमेडी करता हूँ. मैं विधवा मानती बहन और उदुला मानुस और वो सब रैंडम मैक्सिमम में शूटिंग. तो मेरा वो मैं नहीं कर पाता हूँ. मुझे काम के लिए तो काम करना है, राइट? लाइक वर्क फॉर हायर की तरफ तो एज एनी आर्टिस्ट हो. सुनील कुमार द आर्टिस्ट, उसके पास काम ही काम, बिकॉज वो सिर्फ आर्ट कर रहा है. एज अ राइटर कितने कॉमिक्स राइटर्स हैं आप, वो कैन सेफली से कि कमी नहीं है, उनके लिए काम आता है. इंस्टेड ऑफ देन हैविंग टू हंट फॉर इट एंड वर्क फॉर इट. इतने सारे लोग आर डूइंग कॉमिक्स एंड आर्ट साथ साथ, और एनी ऑफ दीज कंपनीज. आई मीन Digital Mohanty को छोड़ के how many exclusively comics artists are there, not including us?
Comic writers.
Comic writers, होंगे. Campfire में काफी सारे होंगे, but there more pros
But
writers who write comics.
हमारे
comics writers who write.
इंडस्ट्री में वो भी कहाँ है जो राइटिंग और ड्राइंग दोनों करते हैं? वो भी कहाँ है?
I mean, as in वो भी नहीं है. But then we have so many editors also writing. Not
So are you trying to say
Shamit
that
Dasar.
actually we just have comic book artists and they develop their writers? Is that what you're saying?
Certainly, but I'm saying we don't have anyone who can be called a writer.
Just a writer.
Just a writer. Not someone who writes a prose thing vaguely and the artist has to translate it अपने हिसाब से. Because काफी हद तक AC के as far as Campfire का I'm not too sure, but as far as people weren't that good at writing textual. They would have a vague idea and the artist would have to translate it. Raj का नहीं पता मुझे.
No, I don't know, but he's
Campfire-
Campfire.
Campfire में काम किया.
He's
हाँ.
in Campfire.
But
I have been in Campfire
but
since
उससे
around 4 or 5 years.
वो वर्कशॉप की थी. But I'm saying कि वहाँ पे कैसे है? Do you have comics artists या फिर you have writers जो prose लिखते हैं?
But there is
From a very
no
classical
new
school.
content with Campfire.
नहीं,
Campfire already is
content
working as a recipient of
content
biographies.
की बात not the
See, Campfire imports stories
Process
from
है.
foreign writers.
exclusively because I've seen जो उन्होंने सुंदरकांड वाला जो है, which is new. The artist
One of the
and
story
writer
has
are
been written by, I think, the mythological content has been written by Indian
Indian
writers like
Right.
Shweta Tereja, there is one,
हाँ.
and Saraswati Nagpal.
ये लोग हैं कौन? I have no idea ये लोग कौन.
I have not met them personally.
Well,
I have met Shweta Tereja.
Well,
but
name
that-
is that the name of the boy? You know, Holy Dog is a.
Yes,
she was
Shweta
there in
Tereja
that-
is connected to
Is used to
Vivian Goyal.
warehouse.
Warehouse.
उसमें भी एक story Shweta Tereja की, I was there.
She is connected to that Shiva trilogy. Not Shiva
Shiva
trilogy,
trilogy,
that
Skull Road.
Skull Road.
Skull Road.
Skull Road.
Again, these so many people who you will इक्के दुक्के में उनका नाम सुना होगा, पर उसके बाद कहाँ जाते हैं, कहाँ से आते हैं, I have no idea. It would be nice if I know them, if I know how are they just doing it because काम करना है, do they just work on children's books and they write also comics, because मैंने
that also is a very big factor.
Very big.
Illustrated should
So person, and then they also sort of be sort of काम करें, so let's write for a comics like that.
See, comic books में ना एक चीज है, if you want to succeed in comic books, you must badly want it to be there. When I was working in comic books, I could have earned at least 3 or 4 times what I was earning in comic books, but I just kept doing comic books because I wanted to do that. And I was talking about the product because it is an industry, it's a business. Okay, so you need to sell your product, and to sell your product should be good enough. And for your product to be good enough, you must have that that amount of practice. You can't like. There are lots of people who are doing just one graphic novel.
Argument to that.
Huh?
So that's one way of looking at it. Even if the product is good enough, sometimes it doesn't sell.
Yes, sometimes.
But
But
when
in
does-
general,
when does
why
that
would
happen?
someone spend money on a cheap
lot of times,
product?
yeah.
I don't think ऐसा I don't think see
It's all about marketing and luck these days.
then it is about
Even
marketing.
in Marvel. So I had anecdotes from Marvel as well, right? Marvel is a huge company. There are some issues. Last week they cancelled Journey into Mystery. Right? 8 issues. 8 issues into the story, and it's one of the best fun I have had in a long while reading a Marvel action comic. But it didn't sell because it didn't have recognizable characters.
Let's try to keep it to India because right now because I really want to get to the bottom of this. Seriously, like because here's the point. Content बहुत अच्छा होता है, but still I don't know.
But wait, I want
for that.
one second before we go into that. Like that was a very interesting point that you were putting forward. Ki, like, we are just not working enough.
Yes.
Hey,
See,
so
this
how
is
do
actually
we?
one conversation. This question he said, why are you not doing work?
To become
Why are you not
a
working?
good comic
It's
book
not
artist or a writer, you need to do a certain number
But
of
to become a
pages.
good writer
And get
as
rid
well,
of those.
you need to
Those will be a
write
bad pages, and then you
Yes,
start
you are bound to draw bad in
No, obviously, वो तो
starting
बोलते हैं
stage of
ना
your
कि
career.
पहले
Which
कचरा
is
निकालोगे
which
फिर
is a very
very
valid point and that is
And
how you learn.
काफी सारे आर्टिस्ट हैं और राइटर्स हैं जो कि अपने बिगनर स्टेज से आगे कभी जाते ही नहीं.
But they
Like
keep
we
repeating
need to draw
themselves.
at least say 4,000 pages or something like that. Not 4,000, say around
To block out the style.
at least 1,000 pages.
Who are you talking about? You're talking about
Like a general thing.
Yes, I'm
you
just
need
talking
to.
about someone. You need to do at least 1,000 pages in writing or drawing to to produce something good, and those 1,000 pages will be
See,
below
you're
par.
talking about art.
If you start selling
No,
something,
but
No,
Writing for writing, I guess.
Keep on writing.
Writing is that is how much you can get better in the confines of your style. मुझे अगर राज विक्रमादित्य बैंक छापेगा, होली का छापेगा, लेवल 10
क्यों
छापेगा,
नहीं छापेगा?
see, आपको पहले 1,000 पेज ना उनकी मर्जी से बनाने होंगे.
Only doing the होली वो सब तो मैं ऐसा कि
होली का छापेगा, level 10 का मुझे idea नहीं, but
Level 10 से मिलके
they would also be looking for new content, right? Level 10
Adhiraj,
That's
but what he's saying is कि you'll have to make that compromise and write something that
Before you start
That's
doing something,
what
what
you're
you
already
want.
doing.
That's
You're
what
doing
you
an independent web comic, right? So you have
That
to get
is-
yourself out there. And right now, there are a lot of ways you can do that.
Exactly. मैं वही कह रहा हूँ. That is one way. You stick with an established guy, Tinkle or ACK or Raj or Diamond. Diamond यहाँ पे मुझे निकाल रहे हैं, तो जो भी हो. But that is one way. मैंने ये चूज किया कि मैं साइड में मैं 21 वर्ड्स में थोड़ा सा ये कर दिया और मैंने और मैं ये कर रहा हूँ. इंटरनेट पे मुझसे मैंने बात की. They want to छापो मैं फनी वाले वो चीज़ें. That is how I am.
अक्षय कर रहा है, अक्षय छापेगा.
Akshay Chhabra, Akshay वहाँ पे गया, but then मिल नहीं पाया उसको. Because when
Akshay is not here.
matters से बात हुई थी. But my point is कि मतलब in terms of the larger picture, not just my personal वो चीज़. This is a very valid वो चीज़ कि you stick with an established work. But then you get into मैं अपनी career की सोच रहा हूँ, not अपने content की सोच रहा हूँ. मुझे writer बनना है, established होना है, तो मैं ऐसे करूँ. मुझे established artist बनना है तो मैं ये करूँ. Not कि मुझे भूतबिला मानुस छापना है इसकी. भूतबिला मानुस will take a second role.
yeah.
ये मेरा issue. Why should I have to compromise on myself? Not compromise. चलो, put it even aside. मुझे आपकी पूछता ही करनी है. Why should I write Gori and
So what he's saying is
करना पड़ेगा.
keep doing it.
हाँ,
But
जो
कोई
मैं कर रहा हूँ.
but कोई नहीं. ऐसा नहीं.
मुझे सुपर हीरो स्टफ बनाना पसंद था.
हाँ नहीं.
Okay,
वो ठीक है.
but
मैं सिर्फ अपनी बात कर रहा हूँ.
मैं आपकी बात नहीं कर सकता, मैं अपनी बात कर सकता हूँ, ठीक है। मुझे सुपर हीरो स्टफ बनाना पसंद था। आई हेटेड शक्तिमान। व्हेन आई वेंट टू डायमंड कॉमिक्स आई वाज गिवन शक्तिमान। I did, I think, 12 books of Shaktiman, and I hated doing those comic books. But I worked hard on those comic books because I knew that was the only way to improve my drawing. Because I was not good enough to get work at any.
How old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
I was, I think, 19 at that time when I went to Diamond Comics. तो मुझे पता था मैं उतना अच्छा नहीं होगी, मुझे राज कॉमिक्स में काम मिले, बट मैं वहाँ काम करना चाहता था, इसलिए मैंने वो 12 इश्यूज बनाए। उसके बाद मैं राज कॉमिक्स में गया। मेरा बचपन का सपना ये नहीं था कि मैं सुपर इंडियन बनाऊंगा, बट आई डिड दोस 12 बुक्स ऑफ सुपर इंडियन। और
But now you're not. Now when you're with Campfire, you're actually not working on superheroes.
यस, बट जब मैंने वो नागराज बना लिया तब मुझे लगा कि हाँ उससे आगे भी कुछ करना चाहिए।
So you moved on from the superhero.
No, I have not grown up from the superhero thing, but ठीक है, वो थोड़ा चेंज के लिए और थोड़ा और चीजें। It's my choice। मैं आज चाहूँ तो सुपर हीरो बना सकता हूँ। It's not like कि I'm not getting my favorite thing। It's like मैं जब भी चाहूँ मैं नागराज बना सकता हूँ। But I had to draw those comic
Number
books।
of issues and pages down.
See, मुझे बुक्स सेल करने के लिए, उस क्वालिटी तक पहुंचने के लिए एटलीस्ट सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ पेजेस तो करना ही पड़ेंगे। और जब तक मेरा काम नहीं बिकेगा मुझे दूसरों लोगों की मर्जी से काम करना पड़ेगा।
How many hits do you get at
Depends on the script. Then we got a lot of hits. जब हमने वो स्कूल वाला कहता है वो जब वो स्कूल में पूरा होता है, that was our most popular storyline. That got us like 8 दिन में we had like 1,000. But generally we get like these things. But next to us, after that isn't like
On the website
we have
or
400 on the site, not on
not Facebook?
Facebook we have 400 likes.
Or you have to count the Facebook account.
Yeah.
क्योंकि तुम्हारी कॉमिक्स बहुत लोग सिर्फ फेसबुक से ही फॉलो करते हैं।
That's the point.
Why don't you give us comic artists who used to be like comic artists इसलिए
Sumit had sent it early.
comic artists बहुत पहले था, but then I got involved because now I site वाली चीज मैंने देखा ना आपसे।
Okay.
So basically I am into building, making sure that everything is working. So basically I run the entire background to make sure that every day हमारा site चल रही है, Facebook चल रहा है, हमारे पास content है। There are people who are doing different things. They have different responsibilities. All of this.
Because जब हम launch करने वाले थे, then अक्षय कुछ बातें शुरू हुई, but बीच में we lost that.
और मेरे साथ पर्सनली बहुत लोग बोलते हैं करते हैं, मेरे पास टाइम होता है कुछ नहीं कर पा रहा, बट अक्षय is the guy who
कुछ बात when we met around the Cosmos Village वाली थी, तब भी हमने बात की थी।
but every new content will have to go through me.
Okay, तो वैसे रिव्यू है अक्षय या
नहीं, so content goes to Akshay, but all the discussion will have to happen.
again अक्षय को भेजो क्या? I lost
अक्षय को
अक्षय भेजी। Simple. What a simple thing.
Okay, guys, I have to leave.
People who want to stay back and stay back.
Ah, the people who want to stay back and stay back, I also people who want to
Are we meeting next week? Next Sunday?
Decide something and weekly usually वो नहीं पता सबका, तो बोला
आज तो बहुत अच्छी गैदरिंग है, seriously,
बहुत
it's a
ही
pretty big gathering. This is probably the strongest
so far.
strongest so far.
After that one in Cosmos Village where we have to take the extra table.
But even then we were like 8.
19 people.
By the end of it, 10. Sorry.
बस तो अभी बैठे
नहीं, this was
दो जने चले गए, दो क्यों 5 जने चले गए, एक्चुअली 5 जने गए, विरोधो एंड तरुण एंड चंकर also
point list करने क्या था?
हाँ?
I was practicing.
नहीं
कि okay, the same कि
he basically feels that you need to do enough work to make not only a name for yourself but to practice and get to that point where you can deliver something.
you can reach a level.
जब लोग ऑब्वियस सी बात है पब्लिशर को प्रॉफिट
यहाँ
कमाना
पे
है।
लोगों का मतलब
जब आपका काम बिकता नहीं है वो क्यों छापेगा?
राज एंड डायमंड, why not publishers abroad? Why not smallest independent publishers abroad?
लोग मार्केट से ब्लेम कर रहे हैं, ऐसा बीच में हिमाचल मार्केट से ब्लेम कर रहे हैं।
Exactly. So
Of फिर
मार्केट चेंज नहीं कर
हर कोई अपने आप को
Raj is not be all end all. It's a good firm to be.
हर कोई अपने आप को सयाना समझता
पहली बार
है. हर कोई बिगनर होता है वो सोचता है कि मैं बहुत बड़ा 30 मार रहा हूँ, बट रियलिटी होती है कि उसका काम पैसा खर्चने का भी नहीं होता.
You have a point. Yeah. तो यार मार्केट को चेंज करने के भी तो बहुत सारे तरीके हैं. मतलब a lot of people have tried. यार जरूरी भी नहीं है कि हम यहीं के लिए बनाएं. Like
ठीक है. So when you go digital, you can actually go to a global market.
anyway.
जैसे टैलेंट को करता है.
I mean, जैसे अब कौन से यार वो हेडलाइंस नहीं बोलेंगे, but the Japanese comics, right?
Okay.
It's okay. But I mean, they are pretty famous in India. People are watching it.
They're famous across the globe.
Nobody is reading it. They're watching it. वो फर्क है. तू जो बोल रहा है ना वो
But
anime है.
they're trying.
No. You go to the manga community, Japan Foundation. बनाओ सर हमेशा बैठे.
अरे पर वो तो
I actually joined it just to read. Free में पढ़ो.
We will just assume, हम लोग will assume because maybe might that be because Comic Con maybe manga has a lot of sale following was strong. Half of the cosplay guys, more than half of the cosplay guys are all full metal alchemists. ये वो he sell the massive collection. The Japanese Foundation की library was mostly open because people would go and keep asking. यहाँ पे Japanese comics हैं. People learn Japanese just to read the comics. बहुत अच्छी qualification. Dedicated following. You might not see it हमेशा always, but there's special forums and all that for anime and
Manga is huge.
Huge.
Manga तो is huge anywhere in the world. Like even in America,
इसको follow नहीं करा.
everywhere.
That we should try and get it to other markets by chance.
We should. नहीं, we are building this list. We are not on top. But जब there are a lot of markets, different publishers as well. Yeah, if you are self-Indian publishers, you shouldn't be targeting anything.
This is what
You can reach out to other publishers as well.
You know, एक चीज होती है. एक one very important thing is like a breakthrough guide is important. For a if you see like अगर तुम इंडोनेशिया फिलीपींस में एक breakthrough guide था. Like go working, one guy who maybe even went to America or something, but he got work for the rest of the guys. It's a very unique
But those guys are like
publisher, but they want
Why are they on a pedestal?
But here's the point.
Why?
जैसे वो जापान में कौन बन रहा है जो एनिमेटेड फिल्म्स बनाता है उसको बहुत ज्यादा फॉलो. हाँ मियाज़ाकी थ्रू अ न्यू मार्केट फॉर ऑल द एनिमेटेड फिल्म्स
abroad.
हाँ abroad भाई.
You need one guy kind of a thing, but अगर वो एक
which kind of are made at least in the Indian context.
बाहर जाने के लिए.
But that's about it. They both do. Neither of them do.
they don't do. Mukesh Singh actually doesn't. उसके पास आता है काम करने वाले का. He doesn't do.
अच्छा,
He doesn't do. He doesn't give it up.
Every creator. What is your goal in creative field and what are you doing to achieve that?
I want to do a lot of things, so I try and dabble in everything and I try to.
भाई इसको कुछ नहीं होगा. मुझे
Like in the if you want to do some kind of comic books or what are you doing for that?
Not much, not much. Because as I said, I do a lot of things. एक बार में आप एक ही चीज whatever is related. Like my solo exhibition was coming up, so that was my mind. So I was not considering anything about
Every week.
just something which is going to be published.
You work on a different
It's a vampire thing. So I had to do the editing and send them back to them. तो वही मैंने so हर चीज की डेडलाइन आती रहती है और हर चीज बीट होती है. So as in when probably life में मेरा तो because I have moved into the negative part because I want to and I don't want to stick to just one genre or one style of movie. Like I want to do art, I want to do street art, I want to do graffiti, I want to write poetry as well. I want to also since I want to do so many things, मैं अपना personally कह सकता हूँ कि time नहीं मिलता सारी चीज़ का.
Like you are
I'm my own
your goal.
Are you? Sorry.
Are you getting nearer to your goal? Nearer to your goal?
No, I want not like because then life is boring. I want to keep searching. No, what's the point? That is why I keep changing things. Because the moment I feel कि कौन सा मुझे saturation होने लगे, मुझे I try to change.
But his is a different factor. Like he didn't come in here.
Because मुझे comics
successful भी ऐसा वो भी कोई वो नहीं है. Like our approaches would be different.
You
I want to make my own content and just like so many stories I have in my head. I want to get them out. that's the basic thing. Just get it out and get it across to the people. Like that's my kind of far away बहुत दूर वाला goal. So maybe if like auteur type में Miyazaki style में, like that's something I want to do. Or even like Urasawa style में कि अच्छा मैं बैठा हूँ, I have these ideas, I have a team, you know, those kind of things. Like that's like that's where I would be like, okay, अच्छा यहाँ पे this is now you can create.
Now you're in
Now
your
you
own
can
zone of
just
creation,
just
and you have
do
people
that.
to
Yeah.
implement it kind of.
Yeah. So that is like one bit that
Have you read Bakuman?
Yeah. That's good.
That's
Like if you
awesome.
take
If
the
you're a comics creator, what?
Even if you're not a creator, that's awesome.
if you
It's really good. And it teaches so much about the manga
In
and
arcade, basically what did they do? They just kept on creating and creating and creating and creating until finally they hit. Every time they did something, they fell down, right? Till the very end, where they finally got the anime done.
yeah.
That's a fantastic story. That's a typical shonen story.
Yeah, but
The base
manga
is
is a different. Like you hear about that Oda guy जो One Piece वाला है. मतलब पूरे महीने काम करता है, दिन में 4 घंटा सोता है. He has assistants and like you hear about their like मैंने किसी का शेड्यूल देखा था.
Blood is their work.
मैंने शेड्यूल देखा था तो मतलब उनका टॉयलेट ब्रेक का शेड्यूल होता है. लाइक दिन में 2 टॉयलेट ब्रेक होगा ऐसे, खाने का ब्रेक ऐसे होगा.
And
meeting
their
का
pressure is weekly.
Yeah.
They do
19 pages.
16 to 19 pages every week.
Yeah. और महीने में फिर उसमें
With all
4
the
कलर पेजेस
backgrounds
आते हैं.
Everything.
But उनके वो है ना assistants and
So what-
Assistants
what-
They started out like that. They didn't have assistant when they started the manga, but they still delivered 19 pages every week. Bakuman के अंदर जो दूसरा बंदा है जो आर्टिस्ट है,
अरे कितने
look
सारे
at what
होते
he
हैं.
does. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't have the time to sleep. The first manga was shot down because of the art, not because of the story. In Bakuman. Then he improved himself. Then the story was falling short. Then he improved. So it's an amazing thing. Any which way you look at it.
Yeah.
It's misogynist. They treat women very unfairly. In the entire country.
They treat women unfairly. वो
That's
तो
true. Even in Death Note, the woman is completely like a useless.
They're like,
But they talk about but that was the thing. उसमें मेटा जाके they talk about it. How you require that in a shonen comics. Like the chick writer actually learns to actually have like panty shorts.
Yeah.
She actually has to learn to do that because that's
so
how
Bakuman
shonen.
it's an amazing book that I don't know how they came up with the concept and everything, but after Death Note, I think Bakuman is very.
If you take away that love bullshit,
Yeah.
that seriously is like वो तो डाल दिया
It's a
है. वो अच्छा वो भी ऐसा लगता है. That also features in like that also the editor would somehow somewhere in the story tell कि अच्छा ये तो डालना चाहिए. So मतलब it's like it's its
So as
own
to
comic.
appeal to a
It's a
certain
must-read
audience.
story.
हाँ it's its own comic. That's a very good thing.
कहीं पे मिस नहीं कर रहे थे
वो हर
That's
जगह
against
होता
the
है.
law.
I started reading.
वही अगर मेटा जाना तो ऐसे जाओ.
हाँ,
मेटा
I-
जाना तो ऐसे
I
इस
get
तरह से
that
जाओ.
to the Spanish foundation में था ना, they had the Bakuman.
मैंने आया Bakuman है.
I saw
हाँ वो
that.
देखा है यहाँ पे.
उसके बाद जब मेरा खत्म हो गया 10 के बाद मैंने कहा यार अभी इंग्लिश में तो आई नहीं करूँगा.
No, but they have.
Then finally I went online and read through everything online in
हाँ.
2 nights. ये खत्म करना ही करना है, अब तो कुछ भी हो जाए, it's too much. तभी ये 10 का ध्यान रुक गया कि अब पढ़ लिया.
But then for that you have like an industry. You know, I mean that's the thing. अगर इंडस्ट्री का सपोर्ट हो, अगर एक्चुअली में दे गेट पेड वेल also like कितने सारे mangakas are national celebrities in Japan. You know, they do that with baseball में first hit वाला thing. They actually do those things in Japan.
लेकिन इंडस्ट्री
No,
में वहाँ पे लेकिन कंपटीशन बहुत है ना.
हाँ वही
Everybody
इंडस्ट्री
does-
इज बिग है ना. सो बेसिकली यहाँ का कितना भी फेमस, इवन अमेरिका में भी कोई फेमस बंदा पहला शॉट तो नहीं मारेगा
नहीं
मांगा जापान में, बिकॉज उसका इंडस्ट्री इतना बड़ा. सो दे रीच दैट पॉइंट थ्रू
वो तो कल्चर
starting
के अंदर
something,
develop
culture है और
ट्रेन में आते जाते लोग वहाँ
इफ यूर फर्स्ट गाय
यहाँ तो
लाइक
कॉमिक खोल के कोई
Oh,
पढ़ेगा
it's considered literature. I mean, people actually they are not
वही
ashamed
ना
of reading the
मतलब
comic.
one
It's
thing
not-
they had was like those 70s में तेजुका वाले guys. At the same time they were making Astro Boy that was like normal comic वाला बन रहा है, सारे बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं. At the same time they just thought कि चलो कुछ बड़ों के लिए भी बना देते हैं. That was just what they did and it stuck. It's not like कि उसका कोई मॉडल बनाया था उन्होंने, but actually में तो वो
Phoenix became its his first success.
yeah. So
So sticking to his main point, yeah.
Yes.
What is the final
हाँ,
goal?
yeah.
But starting with you.
Yeah, sure.
I might end up writing in some journalistic fashion, perhaps like critical essays on certain things, certain issues, or perhaps on movies and all that.
Okay, you want to create content which is for the readers.
But
It's a fair point. अगर चेतन वगैरह कॉमिक बनाएगा बहुत की देखी
हाँ, because चेतन भगत का नाम लिख चुका है.
he was doing shit work.
वो कुछ भी करेगा तो लिखेगा, वैसा वाला हो गया ना.
And by the way, his first book that he came out with, 5 Point Someone, did not sell. He hired a PR agency.
Okay.
No, but he's an IIM guy, right? First of all,
He was an IB.
IIM.
He was an IB as well.
Okay, but main thing
So
is
he had
he
one-
convinced the publishers, right? First of all, he convinced the publishers to
The
do
first
it.
print run was I think 5,000 or maybe less.
When
than that.
I think that when 5 Point Someone was published for the first time, it was not a success.
That's what he's saying, that he had to hire a PR agency to run it.
He hired PR agency, paid him loads and tons shitload of money to present it in such a fashion.
And I read that 5 Point Someone, and it's not that much good.
But it's better than the movie, which is not saying much, but still.
Better than 3
I thought the movie was much
It's easily better than 3 weeks.
I haven't
Yes,
read.
they have advertised and commercialized
certain
that
salient
concept.
features that are there.
Uh,
I don't think
okay.
that two things compare at all.
Different things.
I haven't read any of Chetan Bhagat's
No,
books.
I
I just-
read
It's better than 3 weeks for sure.
चेतन
And to a
भगत
certain
की
extent, that 195% was still working for him.
he started.
One item concept
He
is
was
really
was
good.
working. Until he was
एक concept
introducing the
को
characters and
उसमें
the
जो
concept
सोचा
and guys
है,
everything.
जैसे कि
Even in
बहुत पसंद आए लोगों
when he's
को.
introducing
ठीक है
those characters,
ना. मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटेजी वाला चीज है ना.
it still works.
वही तो.
Marketing
इसके लिए तो brilliance है
content
ना.
create करने लगेगा तो how will you
Brilliance
commit?
It's the character identity.
That guy is coming in what industry where यार convince करना ही लोगों का
You
काम.
can see it fizzling
You are
when you're reading it.
It is
basically sell the public.
Yeah,
You don't sell the
it's
public.
what not selling
That's
the content you're selling.
हिंदी वाले तो वैसे ही बहुत हायर लेवल के हराम हो गए तो सब कुछ.
We are
easy.
we should not.
Basically, it's not the stories he writes. Yeah.
It's not a
It's the
book.
stuff. It's the way he writes it. I think that's the bigger catch.
हिंदी इंग्लिश वर्ड मिक्स करो.
Hindi, जो भी है, like the way he writes is more
It's very
important
easy,
than the
you know?
stuff he writes.
It's very easy.
Chetan Bhagat, I
No,
mean.
see, it's very easy. The language.
It's so easy. तुम्हें कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं.
Easy read.
बस आंखों के सामने रखो और सब कुछ
It does
जाओ.
not. Neither is the plot very, something very really you have to think or something.
It's like it.
For
It's like you don't get bored.
You don't get bored.
Usually.
It just runs through. It's so easy. There's nothing to search for, nothing to do anything. You're just reading.
शायद 3 घंटे में लगते हैं.
He is good at storytelling, even if the story is not good. Yes.
So anyway,
Because
what do
in
you?
5 Point Someone, I felt that story was not that much good, but he
Actually,
told that in good manner.
वो story और छोटी हो सकती थी edit करके. जो story है ना, it's a short story, which has been turned into a novelette. मतलब नॉवेल से थोड़ी छोटी है और शॉर्ट स्टोरी से थोड़ी बड़ी है जो उसने खींच के करी. उसकी जरूरत नहीं थी. एडिट कर देता तो वो और शायद ये और अच्छी बुक बन सकती. जो आप कह रहे हो ना, स्टोरी उतनी अच्छी नहीं. स्टोरी इतने बड़े के लिए अच्छी नहीं थी. उसमें से 20-25 पेज और निकालो. Then it might become, because there are certain instances which are not required. Those things are not required. आप उसको हटा दो और छोटा एडिटिंग करके और छोटा और कंसाइज बन जाएगा.
Okay.
Yeah, Shikan.
अभी मुझे बहुत सारा काम करना है तो मुझे पता है. So I'll be making more क्या? I'll be making comics अभी. And I'll be learning a lot about comics now, reading more.
Okay.
And we'll be meeting again for the
But what is your aim?
What is your ultimate goal? तो मुझे पता नहीं कि वो मैं बनाता भी नहीं. क्योंकि मैं यहाँ से रास्ते में चल के जरा बस में को मार दे तो अल्टीमेट गोल वाली चीज नहीं है. मुझे ये पता मुझे कल क्या करना.
I would like to create, finally the ultimate goal would be to create content of my own. I have concepts and stuff, and I would like to create new concepts as well, which is जैसे something like going with image or something like that would be a pretty good ultimate goal for me right now. And what am I doing to get there? So I am working with a few people and luckily like have gotten the chance to showcase my own concepts and stuff like and stuff like that. So like for example, like I'll be working with I have been working with this company called the Content Company, and also with these people like the Twinkle ke saath I do work quite often. So like I'll be doing some longer stories with them as well. So वही सब कर रहा हूँ and
नहीं
मेरा तो पहली बाइक है
नहीं बोलो
आपकी बारी है।
मैं सीट चेंज कर लेता
कब तक करोगे?
Okay, मेरा गोल बहुत सिंपल है. I just want to do good comic books, like drawing good comic books, and I want to get at a level of telling good stories visually, and to work in a good publication house where I can reach more and more readers. So I want to do just good artwork, and I want that ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोगों तक वो काम पहुँचे.
You do primarily hand work, no?
Yes, I only do handwork till now. Future development,
Mostly of people have started asking for teaching.
maybe. I have tried doing digital, but I don't like the feel of working on the screen. Like that pen tablet, the feel of that pen tablet. I don't like that feel. Like the
Tried working on into
scribbling my pencil graphite on the paper.
डायरेक्टली उस पे जो करते हैं there's one which is the pen tablet पे लोग के स्क्रीन में देखते हैं और यहाँ करते हैं. There's one where there's a direct screen.
Yes. I don't like the feel of that tip.
Somebody said it's like don't think of it as drawing, think of it as ice skating. Then it's more fun.
Yes.
Ice skating because the surface is like nothing sticks.
You
Paper
just
पे
have to
सबसे
slide on-
मजा क्या होता है कि like the grip, you feel the grip, you can feel. So think of this like
there
grip
is one
नहीं
thing
है.
that when we do manual work, you have that like most of my work gets
It's a new thing.
So in manual work, we can use different kind of tools which give different kind of results. Like when I'm inking with brush or pen and propel or all those kind of things, all of them give different kind of lines.
but you get that in digital. In fact, I would argue that there are more
Variations available.
Variations, but like you have to think that it's a new medium. Then it's not.
No,
It's
no,
not
no,
gonna-
no,
it's
no,
not gonna
no,
compete in it.
that part I'm not arguing. Like this, I'm guessing you were saying that you have a lot of like variation,
Flexibility. I think it's
flexibility
more
on the
comfortable.
paper. But वो वहाँ पर भी होता है, वो feel तो वैसे भी आएगी नहीं है. आप स्क्रीन पे करोगे तो the same तो feel नहीं आएगी. But
जो paper पे like when you put your brush on the paper, there is a different feeling. I love that.
This is like old school versus
You cannot
new
compare
school
those.
learning.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not saying that digital is bad or.
It's just a different medium, right? That's all.
I love drawing on the paper.
Some writers say कि जब तक हाथ से लिखेंगे वो कहानी नहीं निकलती है.
Yes, even when I'm typing something, I don't feel that much into that thing. Instead, I keep a pad with myself and I write on that pad and then I type that.
There has been a scientific study which shows that if you are using your hands more actively, you are more likely to think
Yes.
creatively. It is proven.
Then how do you define actively? यहाँ पे तो type में भी
No,
active हो रहा है,
but
writing में भी active हो
like
रहा है.
more closer to the more physical.
But that's the thing, no. But engagement किसमें है? अगर मैं
No, but if you are playing a game,
Sitting
okay,
में
if you are playing a game,
No,
if you are playing a game, you are using the same keyboard. If you are typing, you are using the same keyboard. So it's one thing for different purposes, right? If you are using a pen, you are using it for writing. I mean, if you write.
Specifically about the typing thing, I
Two
read
steps,
a
two steps.
book, a whole book, like
Bhavana,
a 200 pages book on this art of concentration, and there was this chapter about the typing and the writing, and it said that our mind gets more active and indulged in the content when we are writing it instead of when we are typing. So if we are typing something, we won't remember those things that much. When we are writing, we will be more indulged in that
No,
thing.
it
And
depends
also
how-
depends how your brain
It depends how your mind is engaged. Nah, that's the thing.
Yes.
Like
It's your engagement.
अगर like I feel very comfortable drawing digital. I paint, I do everything. But with digital ऐसा कोई नहीं है, कोई फर्क नहीं आता है. So उसमें I feel equally engaged. The only thing is कि end product नहीं है मेरे पास. I don't have a page to show you. It's just there. That's it. So
I
that's
just
the only thing
said
you
this
can
thing about the typing. typing,
हाँ,
like
मतलब वही है।
indulgence and practical
तो अगर मैं एंगेज
Not
फील
like
कर रहा हूँ तो
art.
मेरा प्रोडक्ट वुड बी समवट सो इट्स लाइक कि तुम किस में ज्यादा एंगेज फील कर रहे हो तो दैट्स लाइक एज यू कैन जस्ट बॉयल इट डाउन टू सेइंग व्हाटएवर इज योर मीडियम इज योर मीडियम अगर तुम्हें टाइपिंग में मजा नहीं आ रहा तो यू जस्ट राइट इट डाउन इट्स जस्ट योर ब्रेन इज मोर एंगेज्ड इन इट a lot of people don't drive well because they're just driving you know like वो चलते ही रहते हैं तो फिर they veer off and all those
just
things.
be with our generation. The next generation will not be that.
That's the thing. That's
Exactly.
the thing.
Because we started off using something else and now we are using it. So it's a transition. जो बचपन से वही कर रहा होगा उसको I guess इतना और
And
नहीं
I write both prose and poetry and I write short story. Whatever I mean, I'm writing a lot of things. I don't mind typing. I seriously don't.
So it's again it's a
I enjoy it. It's how you
Everything is a
how
person
you
is
connect your brain to what you are
on
doing.
a screen because I somehow on a page I'll cut things मैं यहाँ से add करूँगा I want to add on a screen I can always go back and add things and add you know
It's just a personal preference.
Exactly.
I know
Exactly.
but I'll tell you
Cannot
एक जो
function.
random writing होगी ना random writing होगी that you should don't do. तो random writing में हाँ मतलब you just write and you don't edit at that moment. So basically you're just allowing your thought to come out. I still don't mind typing when I'm doing
ये
it.
वही ना जैसे अब तुमने नोट
Because
पैड
it's
की बात की
easier.
थी और
मैंने गलती
की
कर दी, I don't care.
हमसे
I'll
पिछली
come back.
जनरेशन में लाइक दे डिडंट वांट टू राइट दे डिडंट वांट टू टाइप ऑन कंप्यूटर
Right.
बिकॉज़ टाइपराइटर
Typewriter.
they were like screw everything else typewriter
Typewriter.
They didn't have an option as well.
no but even now like a lot of those old guys even now they use typewriter
Typewriter won't fit.
Typewriter still functions, man.
I know
No, still function their production
no
is
so
more
even
than-
the thing is they're still
They're still used.
But
See,
you
typewriters.
can't actively go purchase a typewriter now.
but those guys are still going for
They're-
that
they're
option
stopped.
That's the
नया
thing.
नहीं मिलेगा
नया नहीं मिलेगा,
नया
शायद
नहीं मिलेगा। वो आठ सौ नहीं मिलते, पुराना मिलता है आपके सारे ऑफिशियल वर्क उसी के
अब कोर्ट में जाओ काफी सारा टाइपराइटर्स ही मिलता है वहाँ पे
सारा ऑफिशियल वर्क आज भी typewriter
वहाँ पे
मार्केट
कमला नगर
नगर नहीं
कमला मार्केट
स्टेशन के पास है कमला मार्केट वहाँ पे क्या शॉप जिसका
Typewriter भी
उनके पास जितने स्टॉक में अभी भी नए वाले पड़े रहेंगे
मैंने वहाँ से कलर्ड वो लिए मतलब कुछ लिए थे I would
Yeah, but you can do it either way on your PC as well. You do the same thing. You just
Different
mobile में
different generation का different engagement रहा
मिलने को तो मिल जाए
हाँ
गलत नहीं मिल जाए
टाइपिंग वाला तो हो गया
Better mechanical keyboard if you really want to.
हाँ वही
What's your eventual aim and what are you doing to go to
Ultimate aim what we discussed. I mean, don't go.
हाँ नहीं उसमें भी नो आइडिया राइट नाउ सर्वाइवल 6 साल कुछ और था 5 साल कुछ और होगा
नहीं मतलब what is your ultimate aim and
What
what you are
do
doing
you
to
should be?
go there?
What do you want to do? Creatively,
what is the ultimate aim and
Life
what
में
you are
क्या
trying
करना है?
to-
Like-
what you are doing to achieve that.
शादी करनी बच्चे पैदा करने क्या है क्या करना चाहते हो?
Do you have an
Again, coming back into the context of the discussion that we had today, I'm not what I
पापा
said.
ने बैठ के ये बात की थी मैं उनको नहीं बता पाया Seriously, I'm not even making a
That's fine.
Oh, that's okay. Even that's fine.
Okay.
I have certain stories. I have.
So, do you have a short-term goal there? Forget about the long term.
I-
Maybe,
okay,
like he
short-
said, he doesn't have a long term goal. He has
Not the
short-term goal.
shortest term goal.
कल उठना है
चलो
शॉर्ट टर्म की बात नहीं करेंगे प्लीज अभी ये मैसेज खत्म
इसको मैसेज कर जल्दी आओ इधर
नहीं पहुंच पाऊंगा बात होना पड़ेगा short term goals.
Do you have any goal at this point? Any creative goal that you want to work on something?
I want to be good enough to translate some. Okay, बहुत बार idea आता है ना तो वो कुछ और ही होता है. I know बहुत बार I don't have the skills to translate it as well as I want. I would think कुछ और. I would think मुझे ये comic में करने वाली पिक्चर हो जाएगी पर पिक्चर तो बनानी आती है मुझे. बेचना भी नहीं आता है right now. I'm getting there. I'm saying. Just like I said, you have to work your way to get good enough to be able to, you know, have command that thinking. I मुझे ये छापने लगा. मेरा वो नहीं है तो that sort of thing. I want to creatively, I want to be at that level कि मुझे ये चीज़ ऐसे करना है तो I know who to approach. सुनो भाई मेरे पास ये कहानी मुझे कॉमिक्स लिखना है मुझे नॉवल लिखना है मुझे फिल्म बनानी है मुझे टीवी सीरीज That if that counts as a goal, I don't know if that's.
Why not? That's a goal. I mean,
You know,
it's very finished goal. You want to be good enough to be able to translate what you
We are not here to judge your goals.
But
That's
basic
it.
thing is that big side because it's not big.
We'll take it.
It's actually not very very important.
because certain things I know certain ideas I have that might not work in a certain way. Might not work as a comic, might not work as a film, might not work as a cheap. But फिर क्या करूँ उसको? और मैं किसी और को
जरूरी कॉमिक को नहीं
सुमित से कुछ ड्राफ्ट्स में लिख के भेज दिया बिकॉज़
मैगजीन्स हैं न्यूज़पेपर्स हैं
रोज भी नहीं है ना उसका गेम भी क्या बस व्हाट आई लाइक टू डू इन माय फ्री टाइम कुछ नहीं मैं बैठ के मेट्रो बैठ के मैं सोच रहा हूँ आई बी लॉस्ट इन दैट स्टोरी इट विल चेंज कुछ दैट्स हाउ दुबला मानुस के मतलब दैट्स हाउ देखो हाउ कुछ और बट दुबला मानुस ऐसे है how do you explain
ये मैं एक्चुअली बहुत अच्छी कॉमिक
अच्छा ये बात बताओ कि मतलब क्योंकि तो आज फ्री था बोले तुम तो मेट्रो में जाके बैठ जाते
एसी है थोड़ा हिलने मिलने के लोग आते
It's not a bad idea.
हाँ
कॉलेज में ऐसे ही कॉलेज जब पहले क्या था
आपको 3 घंटे में बाहर आना होता है।
मेट्रो में गए
3 घंटा काफी है 170 घंटा तो कैफे में तो 2-3 घंटे ज्यादा ना बैठोगे यार
का जो स्टार्ट हुआ है
My goal, I'm doing that, what I'm doing, what I like to do. I started Comic Addicts because I wanted a community like that. I built that to a certain level online. Now I'm trying to push it to an area where I can help because now Comic Addicts is somewhat, or at least people have started to know about Comic Addicts now. We're reasonably, I mean, if people are in India and they are reading comics, it's a reasonable bet that they now have heard at least about Comic Addicts. The entire objective of starting Comic Addicts was there was no platform where people can come together and talk about comics in India. So we have done that. The idea, but somewhere along the line, I think I lost some focus because there is no Indian content coming out, as you said, right? If I have to sustain a website, if I have to sustain a Facebook group altogether, I need to be able to put something there. There is nothing coming out in India I can put there. But if
कॉमिक कॉन से आता है
Comic Con is actually
कॉमिक कॉन
और हमारे अपडेट्स भी सिर्फ Comic Con पे आते हैं. If you notice the website, we do a large update every Comic Con because that's the only time where people are coming out with products in India. Right? So my ultimate aim is now to kind of exactly what he's done. I started this with Mokas. The idea was to do this but to a larger group. But again, I think he started very well with a small nascent group and maybe to grow it beyond that.
इससे पहले रोहन मैं और विजेंद्र मोहन केसी में बैठे पकड़ कर उसके पहले शीरज जो मैं मतलब 2-3 करके
So the problem he will face is will the next meet be as large?
Exactly. Will the next meet be full stop? नहीं but मैं तो वेला हूँ तो मैं तो हर हफ्ते वेला
मैं भी हर हफ्ते हूँ.
कब मिलना है? Let's ask him. मिलना भी है हर
See,
हफ्ते
the thing is,
हर महीने
like, you know, Akshay and he had a point though.
Exactly.
He said
Exactly.
this is, you know, you're doing it too often.
Exactly.
जो कि
हर हफ्ते मेरा भी हो सकता है. मैं भी हो सकता हूँ.
Bi-monthly or something, you can do something like that.
I mean, wait, let's see what
There's another thing. Unless you have an agenda, today we had an agenda actually.
Okay.
We were discussing something. That's a very important because we're not meeting just like that for the fun of it.
The agenda might not interest everyone.
So there might be different people who might be excited by A agenda or B agenda.
Right.
So let there be some kind of a thing. Like Sumit has suggested, why don't we try? You know, sometimes आगे चल के we can learn from each other. Somebody can show painting.
Certain बात करने के लिए I think I mean we can talk later, but you know there are certain activities that we can do together instead of just sitting and talking. Right? I mean, we started off with discussing Man of Steel. I'm sure a lot of, I mean, I don't find a lot of people where I can go and discuss Man of Steel per se because people just have seen the movie and they know nothing else about it, right? So I need that kind of discussions to happen. I need the other kind of discussions to happen and maybe some activities that we can do together. I'm still hoping he will do something.
You can consider a podcast or something like that.
Podcast we tried doing as well. It's a little difficult.
I did go that.
Comic-Con वाली
He
story है।
feels the negative.
Both
Right.
comic वाला ना
क्या?
comic artist ने
We
DM से
discussed
We
about
discussed
it.
about it.
comic artist
Okay, wow.
because
Recorded and then
I think
we
explain
come
it
out
to me.
because we realized that wasn't that
Get the
interesting.
dent out, which
Even
is-
Comic-Con के
Only
podcast
big
were
names,
very interesting.
otherwise.
So
I
I
think
don't want to
like
come out with a
yeah,
content
but
which is
yes,
not
I think
interesting to me. Why
Like
would I want
very
people to
content, जैसे comic
hear
होता है,
something
science
I don't want to
podcast
hear?
होता है.
It has to be
If you have
If perhaps a new movie comes out that is related to a certain comic book and something like that, you could do a spoiler cast.
in your opinion,
Like you can discuss in detail, in depth stuff. That would be
What does Meetup have the year after that?
have a show.
Why not?
It is a show.
Have a show.
Unless
we have a group
actually
here,
have
so what can
people who
comic
are
artists
really-
do? I mean, I might as well ask that question. That what I mean, from a writer, from an artist perspective, what else can comic artists, or in fact, what should comic artists be doing for film meetups?
I think it's a
I
platform. Like that's the thing. Platform, right? That was the biggest point. Like,
Can they-
But like he said, there has to be more content for him.
there has to be more
नहीं,
content.
नहीं, but then content के लिए if you post these things, मान लो publishers want new artists, you can have a post artist wanted apply.
हाँ, जैसे बाहर के forums होते हैं, यहाँ पे forum वाला कोई चक्कर नहीं है. It's all like
But
inside
that
your
can't
group.
happen over Facebook, right?
Not on Facebook, on your site. On the site,
On
it can.
the
Not
site
on
level, the site.
Yeah.
Not only Facebook, there's some different things.
But see, not a lot of publishers come to me.
Okay, I'm saying like hypothetically.
From an independent, from publisher's perspective, I know what I need to do, right? From an independent artist perspective.
Okay, वैसे
क्योंकि पब्लिशर को तो पता है ना, हर कॉमिक को कॉमिक निकालते हैं, तो मेरे को भी पता है उनके साथ हर कॉमिक क्या करना है, उनका कोई और ऑब्जेक्टिव तो है नहीं,
चल रहा है साल
वही चलता रहेगा. We started doing the Mokas beat, ललित ने भी, I think first हमारी शायद आपकी थी, हमने तीन चार करके
कौन सा था फर्स्ट था ये कौन सा
How would he know कि तुम्हारा first है कि नहीं? उसका तो था.
नहीं मेरा फर्स्ट नहीं था.
But इनका कौन सा नहीं पता.
मेरा भी वो फर्स्ट नहीं था.
But then we did Minicon as well, right? That went off very
कौन सा साथ
successful.
नहीं
I mean,
किया.
200 people showed up.
Campus
As they
is
came
also
out back.
tiny,
The
But I
tiny
feel like
place,
that was the
people
worst
actually showed up.
one I ever did.
मैं all the office वाले के लिए मैं जल्दी नहीं मैं
That was the first Minicon. We did the second one. Boulevard one. Second event, first event में we had about 100 people. Second event में we had
56 नहीं
56
वहाँ मैं ऑफिस वाला
Like I think it's about getting the word. या वही platform पर कैसे, like किस तरह से. The problem is कि हाँ वो करोगे क्या उसके बाद में क्या करोगे, मतलब ठीक है you I probably made a comic, you probably.
If Adhiraj comes out with something, that is the only, it's a marketing platform at the end of the day. I can only market something if there is a content.
content
That's okay.
No. There are other things that.
अब जैसे अगर कोई काम आ रहा है तो
Can be run off
anyways I'm working for some
operator
company
kind
so they don't need any kind of thing. उनका अलग से system होगा.
Operator as in, people get
So
together and do it.
that's what
So you have a certain policy.
stay as independent.
Say you have a line.
मैं काम कर रहा हूँ तो जो है
So all of those things keep on happening.
writer for
वही है,
hire.
that's the thing ना.
Facebook पे you are applying to do multiple things. So
Man,
Then what happens to you?
Basically
People
what
participate.
is work तो
But then
publisher
there's-
चाहिए हाँ, that's right.
what about like something like some sort like something to make artists and writers like
we started
do
off on
something.
our side. We started off with an interview thing, right? We picked up an artist and we would spotlight that artist, right? We did it 3 or 4 times. But then for some reason we stopped doing it because it was getting difficult to contact artists. We would send out questions, they would not reply.
But
So-
we had an interview done, we never got that interview never finished.
Mine was published.
I think yours
No,
was
mine
not, but I think
Mine was published.
When remember he came for 40 minutes. So
हाँ 40 weeks वाला.
शुरू रुक के तो आए नहीं मेरे पास, वो भी लॉस्ट इन ट्रांसलेशन है, वो तो
चलो
लॉस्ट
तो अलग बात है चलो.
शुरू रुक के पास ही पड़े.
Okay.
So I was actually saying something. I was saying, say, even people can do it themselves. They can such as say there's a writer, he says I have some kind of concept, so he gives us one single liner or something, and then he's ready to collaborate with somebody only on that forum just to be displayed on that forum. Say the copywriting makes, I know there are issues. I'm just talking hypothetically. You wanted to know
Like
what,
those
what
issues,
more.
like I was also saying something very similar, like in the sense that something like a jam session sort of thing. This is the
Maybe it's a small
give
thing that
a
gets
theme
connected.
and say that okay, try and come up with
like pencil jack, digital webbing, अगर if you know about those sites.
And
उनमें
concept art has that weekly challenge thing.
every all of these digital webbing
like there's this
has
project
similar-
rooftop करके वो भी है,
See, it
super
becomes a
useful.
repository also, no? Think of it this way. You start something today, say a year down the line or 2 years down the line, you have a repository of ideas and content which people have actually created.
Like it'll be awesome if there's some kind of reward. Like suppose some established artist would say that maybe judge the contest or
I actually
something like
did
that.
that for I contacting a lot of publishers. I did a panel. I think Lalit was, I contacted you as well, this photo or it as well. And the idea was that new people, freshers would come and publish or send their stuff to us. We will go back to this panel. We will get the feedback from the panel and we will publish it on the site.
Okay.
Right? We launched it. Few people, I think that was early days as well. Maybe if we recreate it now because we have a larger following, people will do it more. But then from artists and the publishers, and there was no response coming.
So probably now when certain period has gone and there's a life cycle to everything. Comic-Con has also gone through its life cycle. So a lot of people have been introduced. See, what is the best part about Comic-Con? Comic-Con introduced a lot of people back to comics, which was not happening. So we should be grateful to that. But now using that part, where even more creators are getting interested in creating stuff. If you reintroduce that thing what you had, or think about, don't keep a panel of jury also. Why not have an opportunity for people to come out with bad things? They'll get bad reviews. So simple.
No, but then what is the initiative for a decent artist to submit to that platform?
So that's what we need to create.
Is there what type of an audience are we talking about? How much? What's the number that we
Then
already
what you have to
approaching?
see the
Already
concept.
approaching.
On a daily basis on the website, it's 1,000 plus.
That's not a small number.
So
On the Facebook, it's 34,000.
34,000. Have you ever done any paid publicity for that? No. So this is all Indian.
So global.
So can we track out how much audience do we have in India? So according to me, it makes sense to approach to to the Indian audience first of all. If you don't have it, build that. Get some investor. हम लोगों ने अपनी एक छोटी सी कम्युनिटी के लिए थोड़ा बहुत अभी तक मार्केटिंग किया नहीं है, बट इफ यू मार्केट चाचा प्रोडक्शंस के लिए इवन इफ यू डू थिंक अबाउट इट, मतलब $50, $100, $200 collect from and get an Indian audience first of all.
I have an Indian audience.
You do.
34 out of 34,000 Facebook likes that I have. I think it's 15 or 20,000 Indians.
Okay, I've been interaction for many years and I'm standing as
I've
India's
been
premier
doing it for
comics
2 years
website.
on a regular basis.
India's premier comics website. So if you search for any Indian comic artist, their site link would be our top penny that is from 3-4 because
That's in
this-
cover
this
that
simply-
by. See, we also work
simply-
global. I'm not taking any money from anyone. So, for example, अगर interview करना है या rights देने हैं, so we guys do it on our own timely basis. क्योंकि कई बार चीजें नहीं हो पाती, कई बार हो जाती हैं. But for the last 6 months now, we maintain this schedule because as comic artists, we have restructured everything. We have divided responsibilities. So things are happening.
So wouldn't you want your 37 or 15,000 की audience to increase and then does the website के जो hits हैं to increase because all your platform is supposed to be website is what I feel, not Facebook.
Yeah.
So even if your interaction on Facebook is huge, your hits on the website should increase. This is like your business talk.
Obviously, that is why every time the post happens on the website, it's prominently displayed through Facebook. Currently, we are trying to divert our Facebook audiences to our website. We do that.
I mean,
Unless you go from the point that they should do a little more of paid marketing or something, you think that they should do more?
if not that, we should get a bigger audience somehow. And one way what I feel is
audience to
what
I
is
should
to
do what?
project your work. As it is, you have content. I'm sorry, but you already have content that I'm sure of. You already have content, so you can bring to that first. Get them encouraged. Okay, now you can publish your stuff. As he
But
asked
again,
what the
No. The problem with
problem
this, it
is-
is an updating site. What do you update it with?
And see, जो
You
cycle
need
of
more content.
हम तैयार हैं, हाँ, किसके
क्या करूँ?
as it is, he has content.
No, I have content,
There is
but
an
again,
extra
Indian based
content.
content ज़्यादा है ही नहीं ना, market में नहीं है.
कंटेंट आ रहा है.
But Indians attract them to the comics.
And that is happening. That is happening by
But
comic.
I think you don't understand how dire the situation is in terms of new content not being generated.
It's just not there.
Visit,
There are like
visit our
10,
site.
15
next
comics
meeting
being
we talk.
published in
Visit our
India.
site and Facebook, right?
Independent also.
Remove
I think
large
we have a
comics
more
from the
relevant
equation and you
discussion.
don't have
Like,
enough comic books to sell in India.
Yeah.
No, because see what was
You know,
on my
मतलब एक शेल्फ
See,
भी
what-
नहीं
पे तो है ही नहीं.
शेल्फ पे भी नहीं मतलब नहीं अगर तुम शेल्फ बना दो एक सेपरेट इंडियन कॉमिक्स
Hold on.
और उसको अपडेट
इसका
करना
एक शेल्फ नहीं बढ़ता.
हाँ नई
अगर मैं यहाँ
कॉमिक्स
से एक शेल्फ ले लूँ,
राज
इसका
कॉमिक्स
एक
हटा दोगे तो
शेल्फ बढ़ेगा.
राज कॉमिक्स हटा दोगे वो हटा दोगे तो कुछ नहीं बचेगा।
If you are looking for new comic books, remove Raj comics and you have nothing to sell.
Remove Raj and Campfire, which are again
Even
products
Campfire has
that-
limited numbers.
Even Campfire is
ऐसे ही
completely
said,
having a
पहली बात तो
Time
people audience बढ़ानी है मेरे को. That is what I am
a
saying.
year.
Not for Indian, not for Indian content. Or
that's what I'm saying.
any comic
You don't have
content.
anything to
Basically,
market.
get them first of all related to comics. That is what I'm saying.
I said,
No, that's the thing. That's what somewhat to a degree they have already done. Like Indian people are already reading
visit
comics
the
as a
site,
site.
visit the page. We'll have a more relevant discussion with them.
हाँ
Yeah, I guess that. थोड़ा बहुत वो I've seen a few IT startups. IT startup में क्या होता है कि they try and generate content first. Very shitty websites. यार template उठा के copy करके and now they've turned up into मतलब बड़ी कंपनी इंटरनेशनल कंपनी. What I'm saying is क्या होता है कि they try and build up any content that is possible. फिर attract people.
हमने भी ऐसे किया यार.
Okay.
आपको क्या लगा जब स्टार्ट कर रहे थे? I had a lot of options to choose from.
So I get it.
But the thing is, Indian market is not a huge market when it comes to.
buying Indian comics.
लोग कहाँ हैं?
I also had a question.
लोग diehard fans नहीं हैं.
Are-
Discussion.
And Indian market, someone like me, for example, is more exposed to foreign market anyway. I read more Iron Man than I would read by now Raj comics, right? And there is no other comics available.
So that is what my question was going to be. Okay, are there people reading comics in India?
There are people reading comics.
Any comic.
There are
Yeah.
people reading comics.
So they might not be reading Indian
They
comics.
are interested, but they are not. But
They might them to some place, one place. Get them to because में सब नहीं रीच कर रहे हैं ना.
लेकिन आप ये
यार वो फिजिकली है ना. So अगर हम लोग वेब कम्युनिटी कर रहे हैं, वेब पे कुछ करना चाहते हैं तो
एक तो
यहाँ पे प्रोडक्ट नहीं है. Basically,
Comics
see,
नहीं
if
है.
we want to talk about
अगर comics है तो अच्छी
we have
comics
seen
नहीं
number
है.
of movies.
इंटरनेशनल की बात करें.
See, part that is why I was saying that that is the reason I was saying that they have to talk every month.
Every week there is a post going
We can't keep talking about a single comic book.
पूरे across week there are 4 or 5
Like, you can only talk about it explain के लिए.
Facebook पे every couple of hours there is
How many
something.
comic books are here?
Very
We
relevant,
get like
very
15 comic books.
And it's
So
not like
much
we have a
about
backlog of great comics like that.
There is no point talking about those, old comic books. Like, we get 15 comic books a year. So are we supposed to talk about for those 15 books for whole year?
No, see,
And that is the same thing with the people.
मैं इसीलिए कह रहा हूँ कि कुछ हमें ऐसे कंटेंट को क्रिएट करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए. एक तो लोगों को प्रैक्टिस होगी. There's a lot of training when you do these challenges and all those things. There's a lot of training that people do for themselves.
Like,
They
I
learn
would-
from
yeah,
those mistakes.
I would
यार इंडिया अगर हमें इंडिया का किकस्टार्ट वर्जन करना हो तो हाउ डज इट वर्क?
Online videos, tutorials for new artists to go through. ठीक है?
What is cartoon?
Any, no, not. I mean, it was a startup. So obviously, बड़े लोग तो नहीं देखेंगे. So I can only approach startups, right? And for some reason that also didn't happen because that didn't. I said yes, but I followed up, but then he never.
Did he have the videos already?
He was creating it. He was in the process of creating it for himself. I said, अरे तुम्हारे इंस्टीट्यूट का नाम कर दूंगा यार. Provided by ये. Give me some materials that people here can use, can consume. For example, he's talking about writing. Someone else is talking about drawing. I mean, you have a tutorial where a professional is teaching you. from a comic perspective, what is right, what is wrong. You do not want to represent that. I try to create that as well, but again the problem comes, who else would be interested apart from me? I cannot create the videos. I can launch the videos.
No,
I have done tens of other
so in terms of
people
forum activities, in terms of making it a great forum for where
More
people would
activity
come.
even amongst the creators.
I see if there was a
We also
let's
have
say you know
following.
a one-page comic contest a month. Okay, you have 1 month ke liye, you have a one-page comic contest, and someone established in the industry, but you know a big name like someone like let's say even someone like Samit Basu, you know whom most people have heard of. I think he's awesome.
ठीक है सबकी अपनी opinion.
Votes, no, what's the problem?
Anything.
Yes, I will not. Even votes के लिए तो तुम
हाँ.
अपने दोस्त को बोलेगे वो वोट करेगा.
नहीं seriously,
Votes, I would never like do something for votes. I would rather
See, देखो ये वोट वाला जो फंड है ना, ये वोट पे क्या होता है कि you get publicity. अपने फ्रेंड को बोलते हो ना, when you push that content on a very मतलब generic base पे बात कर रहा हूँ, I'm not talking.
From a purely comic artist perspective, I will vote for votes.
है ना, तो वो word
But
gets
then
out.
I, as a creator, would not do something for votes because I know votes are very, easily manipulatable. Like if I'm
True, but as a growing, you get it. देखो आज एक सिंपल सा है एक
देखो deviate नहीं host point of view. I tell you what,
community point of view.
your deviant art पे there are a lot of art contests जो voting के basis पे चलते हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता कि इनमें 100 हजार वोट्स मिले. बहुत अच्छे आर्टिस्ट आते हैं, ड्रॉ करते हैं, वहाँ पे 12 वोट 22 वोट्स, उसमें मतलब एक पूरा महीना चल रहा है और इतने ही वोट हैं ऐसा. So I mean,
concept art पे इन सब पे ही होता है.
and plus especially a forum where you can follow someone like DeviantArt, a person who already has a long following will obviously
अच्छा आप ये बात बताओ, इंडिया में अक्रॉस पैन इंडिया कितने कॉमिक आर्टिस्ट होंगे, कितने कॉमिक राइटर्स होंगे?
जैसे even new ones, like there are lots of artists. You know what this Manta Ray is doing? Manta Ray has very good art in their books. The people doing the art are not comic book artists. They are fine artists,
Or illustrators or
people like
something.
that, who have suddenly realized that this is another avenue for my work. So I mean, there are lots of artists.
At the end of the day, if purely from comic artist perspective, I will have to talk about people who are actually doing comic art. Not
Sure, but you can get people who are not doing comic art to do comic art.
How Manta Ray figure out a way to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
No one else has.
No, but I'm saying if you have something like, let's say, a film director who might need storyboards. Suppose he's judging the contest. A random artist, not a comic book artist,
Fine artist.
might have an incentive. That might be an incentive for him to come and draw something in
I'll tell you
sequential.
something else. I also worked with an organization which is very similar to Kickstarter. And I asked them to divert their attention to this space and start launching their campaigns with comic artists so that the problems that he was talking about, right? I don't necessarily need to invest my own money. I can put in, we all know Kickstarter, right? So I started that initial campaign with 3 publications. I won't name them. The problem with each of these publications were delays. I had promised this, third party that they would receive such and such by this and this deadline. Delivery dates were not met at all. I pushed and pushed and pushed. Believe me, for 2 months, I kept them waiting for 2 months for someone to come back to me. I was working with 3 publication houses, not individuals, 3 publication houses. All of these publication houses ran into delays more than 2 months. An entire chain of thought went down. Otherwise, maybe you guys would have had something else by now. So I have done a lot of things at the back end to make sure that there is some comic culture happening in India. Right? I have done a lot of things which any one of us, if wants to do it, he can do it. I just have ideas. I try and implement them, right? But now, I have also started becoming occupied in a lot of others as well. Right? I'm doing that because I have a passion for comics. Right? I want to see a comic culture develop in India so that I can do all of these. I can meet like-minded people and we can have a beer, go out, watch Man of Steel, and maybe crave about something. Right? And this is, at the end of the day, my objective is that. I don't want anything else. But if there is no one helping me out, or comic addicts, to do something, which is contribution worthy, it will all fail. I can't run everything on my own. So I need partners who are as dedicated as I was or I am.
I think that's why we need that's a conundrum, na? That's why we need dedicated comic artists and writers. But we don't have dedicated. Most of the people मेरा जितना ही paid work होता है comics से नहीं होता है. It's just working.
Comics publishers, because unless there are publishers to support these artists and writers. Because मेरा भी sustenance is not comics. It's not comics. It's magazine.
Let's say if I have 5 projects, उसमें से एक बड़ी मुश्किल से comic होगा, that would also be one of the lesser paying projects.
But then
तो कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि I want to do that.
So unless there are not just one or two, I think there's something going. It is rolling.
I mean, I can do a
Not
lot of
something
things.
huge.
I have a lot of ideas. I have translated a lot of these ideas into actual groundwork, but a lot of them have fizzled out.
Yeah, the whole comics industry.
We were talking about that thing. Downsizing. Make it a basement. Come out with zines. I know कि फर्क नहीं होगा, लेकिन
okay.
Magazines.
I was in college, ठीक है? Me and a friend, we had this idea, ठीक है? हमने एक psychology की हमने zine. साइकोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट नहीं थी, छोटा है पर ठीक है मान हमने फोटोकॉपी कर 10 कॉपी बनवाई थी, तो हाथ से मैंने कॉपी बनाई है, कुछ लिखा है, साइकोलॉजी आर्टिकल्स हैं और जोक्स हैं सर. वी हैड सो मच फन डूइंग इट. नो वन गिव अ फक. हमने पार्ट किया है लोग 10 कॉपी की थी, फ्रेंड्स ने बांटा है. वैसे टाइप की चीज़, little community building चीज़ें like
that is why I'm saying if you want to build a community, you need to do activities around.
Now it's a very good thing to do a 24 comic now. Now we can do a 24-hour comic. Sit down, 22 page बना दो 24 घंटे में. पिछली बारी हमने किया था, 3 लोग कर रहे थे, मेरे को बीच में जाना था, मैं चला गया, मैं जब वापस आया तो I was a little drunk, so I was like छोड़ो ना यार. So even they left it. It was because 2 बंदे draw कर रहे हैं.
बात वही है.
अभी what your copy.
He was actually working hard and
but by the end it was just
it fizzled out some.
Someone made a 48-hour gaming event. I don't know whether you saw it or not, but
I did it at a friend's place.
Like Reddit पर someone posted for tabletop RPGs, ठीक है? Dungeons and Dragons type का. I had a vague interest, मैंने पढ़ा, कर लेते हैं, कि मेरे पास खुद नहीं है. So this guy and me हम बात कर रहे हैं. Now I'm figuring out how to make my own या download something and start our own thing. कुछ करना है तो करना है. हम 2 बंदे हैं, but वही थोड़ा सा वो time है and drive है, कर लेते हैं. Same for कुछ भी. Like Sumit and I, they आपको लेकिन और भी चीज़ें.
But most people ये problem होता है कि interest वगैरह सब कुछ होता है, but eventually when it comes down to translating it, delivering on time and all, it's hard when there's no contract money and those things.
I was doing it dedicatedly, right? I was doing it in office, रात को घर से ऑफिस आया 10 बजे, 10 से 1 बजे तक ये काम कर रहा हूँ. Because when I started Comic Addicts, no one knew about Comic Addicts. I did a lot of things that didn't happen just like that. I was doing रात को ये कर रहा था, दिन में वो कर रहा था. Right? But then now I don't have to do all of those. आगे से reciprocity नहीं है, content नहीं है. लोग interested हैं भी, वो तो interest के लोग मिले जाते हैं Comic Addicts से. And this is not the first meet that I am having here. I keep having meets at my place. People go out and do all of those things. So for example, if I were to publicize, I didn't talk about this on Comic Addicts, right? Today. If I were to publicize it on Comic Addicts, I'm sure 10 more people would have come this.
Maybe we could have
But to capture those 10 people, you need to do something.
There has to be activity. I agree with that.
So
there has to be some activity.
Go out and have beer. Even that is fine. Means last mini hall I provided everyone with free beer. 56.
5, 6.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7. Every cosplayer had a team. I manage that as well in the limited resources I have. So there is no dearth of things that you can not do. You can do anything that you want to do. It didn't cost me a single paisa from my pocket to get everyone a team. So you want to do stuff, you can do it. I wanted to do it, I did it. Right? I can do a lot of other stuff as well, but I need people who would be able to help me take it forward. For example, Akshay comes here, talks about it, goes back. At the end of the day, if he's not helping me, if he's not taking responsibility of a part of it, I am not going to be able to do it. I am a single guy. I have other things to take care of. I have a family to run as well. So all of that will get lost into translation. If he wants to do something, if there are ideas, there is a way, there is a limited amount of input I will be able to do. At the end of it, I need drivers. So in a big engine, there are cogs that run the machine. Comic Addicts is now structured in a fashion that I have found these cogs. If you want to build an industry,
if anything has to be added, then you come as a person who takes
take responsibility. I mean, put your money where your mouth is first. अगर कर सकते हो तो बोलो, नहीं तो क्यों बोलो? Armchair thinking तो बहुत लोग करते हैं. If you want a change, you have to be the change. It's as simple as that, and it works in reality.
Absolutely. I mean, we can sit and complain content नहीं, publisher नहीं.
अगर आपको कॉमिक कॉन से परेशानी है, कर लो नहीं कॉमिक कॉन किसमें लो?
That is what she does.
Why don't you do your own comic? No one is stopping you. You can get the funding. But आपको focus होना पड़ेगा ना वहाँ पे कि मेरे को करना है इसे बेटर. Probably आप कर सकते हो, probably आप नहीं कर सकते. But again, that depends on your drive, your zeal, your ideas. यहाँ पे हिंदुस्तान में दिक्कत ये है, लोग कंप्लेन बहुत करते हैं. खुद जाके आगे फ्रंट लाइन पे लड़ोगे तो फिर ही तो कुछ होगा.
जवान आगे बढ़ो, चीजें करो, बोलो क्या करना है. Actually, start thinking. Start thinking what we can do. Let's not do
I
five
also
things.
have a
Let's
limited
think
amount
what
of
we can
experience in
do.
this industry and that is very promising. Can you shut down the mic?
Okay. Let's, okay.